Hey, gals and guys. Welcome to episode 11 of the podcast. And with me today is Ben Scher, the Eyes of Ben Scher blog. Welcome, Ben.
Hello, everybody.
It's been a while since we recorded. By the time this gets out there, it's been over 2 months. So, how have things been for you?
Oh, everything is good. Yeah, I know. I was thinking that how much I was just really happy we were doing this morning. I really need this because I've been just kind of drowning in academic work, and it's stressful and exhausting, and it takes me away from the total fun of retro movie love. So I'm doing okay. And how are you doing?
I'm doing good too. Things have been a little hectic around here with moving and all the craziness that comes with that. Just yesterday, I had my first, oh my god, my kid swallowed something, and I have to go to the hospital scare.
Oh my god, what did he swallow?
Well, I had thought he had swallowed one of my wife's wisdom teeth. So we're moving and all the stuff's everywhere, and my wife had kept her wisdom teeth when she had them pulled from a long time ago, and he apparently got into the box and was playing with the teeth, and then I saw him with one of the teeth in his mouth, which was really gross. I'm like, what are you doing? And then when I went to look for the other one, I could not find it. And I'm like, oh my god, he totally swallowed the tooth. I started freaking out, and then he was coughing. I'm like, oh, no. He's choking, so I'm trying to maneuver him to get the tooth out. And then he seemed okay, finally. And then I went back to search for the tooth, and I found it. So he never ended up swallowing.
So you didn't actually have to bring him to the hospital?
No, but I'm like, I got my clothes on. I'm like, we're ready to go. But I just... And then when he seemed fine, I had to make sure that it was actually not in his esophagus or something.
Oh my god.
A bit crazy. No scares today. I wonder, do you have similar things with problems with your children? Yes,
all the time. There are a lot of things that they can't eat. The thing that and they're always, they're putting, they would be on top of your wife's wisdom teeth, the minute that they came out, they would be over there trying to swallow them. But the thing that was the most annoying, we live on the west side of LA, and we were going to have dinner with our friends who live on the east side of LA, which is, about 40 minutes away in traffic. Or depending, even an hour and a half in traffic. And we got them a house plant because they just moved into a new apartment. And the cats, there's this 8,000 page list of plants that if they eat it, they'll die immediately. So of course we left the house plant on the table, and our kitchen table, and we didn't realize until we got to Silver Lake that we had done that. So we freaked out, and I had to drive all the way home.
Oh my god.
To get the plants so that we wouldn't find them dead when we returned home. And I was just like, God, I hate these fucking cats and their fussy stomachs.
Children. So today our focus is going to be on the horror soundtrack again. This is volume 2 of that, and I'm so happy you could join me for this one.
Yeah, I know. This is going to be really fun. I don't think we've ever done a soundtrack episode before.
No, not together. I'm very excited. So let's get into it and play your first pick. Here it is.
She's lost her way. She was saving the nickels and saving the dimes for her wedding day. She was a trusting soul, but he held her hard with careless hands. Suddenly she understands. Love may come and
So that was Beat of the Heart from Scared Stiff, also known as the Masterson Curse. I don't know that it was ever released in the United States as the Masterson Curse, but it was released somewhere with that title because there's a trailer on the internet. And the fact that we can be playing this song for you on our podcast now just really emphasizes for me the wonders of the internet. Because when I saw this movie, I think it must have come out straight to video. Am I wrong about that? Do you remember it having a theatrical release?
I don't. So it's
Yeah.
very likely it was video.
I was obsessed with it. It's about a pop singer who has just had a nervous breakdown. And she's just recovered from a nervous breakdown and gotten out of the mental institution, after which she marries her psychologist, which, never a good idea. There's definitely a crossing of professional boundaries happening there from the get-go. And they move into a crazy southern former plantation mansion together so she can relax. Also, never a good idea, like going to some crazy faraway place to, quote, relax and get away from the big city. And there's a creepy history there because a slave master owned the plantation and his slaves were practicing voodoo in the attic, and the wife was involved with the voodoo slaves, and we know that something scary happened, but we don't kind of know exactly what it is. So after they move into the house, all these creepy, haunting things start taking place. They start finding weird skeletons in the attic and secret rooms, and in one scene, a computer a very 80s computer goes ballistic, and this crazy Mesopotamian mask comes flying out of it. So basically just everything I could ever want to happen in a movie happens in this movie. But most prominently, the main pop singer, played by Mary Page Keller, who had a very kind of brief career on TV and movies in the 80s, she records her music video, Beat of the Heart. And it's very classic. It's just like her walking on a soundstage with a lace curtain and a Roman column and a purple background. And I loved this song so much, and I was really young when I saw the movie, so I thought, well, if this song was in the movie, obviously they must have released a single at some point. So I would go to Records and Such, which was the record store in my town at that time, and this was before the internet, they had this gigantic book with a list of every album and every song, and it was basically allmusic.com, but in a huge book, and I would keep looking for it and asking about it. And of course it was nowhere to be found because Beat of the Heart only existed in Scared Stiff. And it tortured me for years. So when I finally found it on YouTube and realized I could, get an MP3 of it, at this point I was 30. But I was just as happy as that 10-year-old would have been. And now I listen to it just all the time because I don't know if it's because I love the song so much or if it's because just of the thrill of having this thing that I could not have for so many years. So have you seen Scared Stiff?
I saw Scared Stiff probably around when it came out on video. In 87, 88, and I haven't seen it since. But I remember it being kind of weird and interesting at the same time, but not really remembering a whole lot about it, unfortunately. I remember the actress in it, Mary Page Keller. Mm-hmm. She was on a couple of TV shows, and I kind of liked her.
Baby Talk.
That's right. Baby Talk was kind of the version of Look Who's Talking? Was that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I remember liking Look Who's Talking and checking out that TV series and oh, she's familiar because she was in Scared Stiff, which I had... I don't know. I feel bad for forgetting about this movie completely.
Well, it's okay. I think probably a lot of people have. I'll be interested to know if anyone will listen to this song and be like, oh my God, I'm so happy that somebody found this song, or if people are just going to be like, what is Scared Stiff?
But I remember certain images from the film. I remember being kind of spooky and haunting a bit, and having that very 87, 88 kind of vibe. But unfortunately, I don't remember a lot more about it. But I love the song. The song is The song is really great and a nice contrast to a horror movie of the time. So I'm a big fan of the song for sure.
It's interesting that after you watch the movie and all this crazy stuff has happened, then they just play the whole song over the end credits. And that was such a late 80s thing to do, wasn't it? That there were all throughout the 80s, there would just be it would just be the craziest, scariest, goriest movie, and then this like weird love ballad at the end, like Sleepaway Camp and Happy Birthday to Me, Prom Night.
And when you mentioned this movie, I looked up the credits, and the writer of the movie went on to do Twin Peaks, or was doing Twin Peaks at the same time. So that was kind of cool. And
that's awesome. That makes me feel better about liking it.
And he also wrote a movie I really like from 87 called The Believers. A movie I totally forgot to mention on the 87 podcast because I really liked that when that came out in theaters. It's really creepy. And my wife and I have actually been talking about it recently, and she's really interested in watching it, so I have to put that one on for her. But I'll definitely have to check out Scared Stiff again. I really want to see it.
Yeah, if anybody from Scream Factory or Scorpion is listening, like obviously the world is clamoring for a special edition DVD of this movie, so hurry up.
Okay, let's move on to my first pick. Here it is.
Here's some more prizes for ladies here on Max.
Dear Blender,
You won't blend into the background with us in your
oh,
home.
won't you help the first offender? Oh, toaster,
Pop up in the popularity ratings with a
don't you put the burn on me.
Look at this.
Refrigerator, why are we always sooner or later? Bitching in the kitchen or crying in the bedroom all night.
Living on a knife edge.
Dear knife drawer,
Stay sharp with this keen knife in hand.
now won't you help me to face life more? Oh, trash can,
Can with the trash can.
don't you put the dirt on me? Oh, percolator, why are we always sooner or later?
Toil, no trouble.
Bitching in the kitchen or crying in the bedroom all night.
Prizes here on
Everything used to be okay, but I've been had. Brad, I'm glad to say, is on his way. Micro digital awaker, why are we always sooner or later? Bitching in the kitchen or crying in the bedroom all night. Shower curtain,
Wash those moves away in the shower by
oh,
April
won't
shower.
you help me to be certain? Oh,
Arm yourself to
toothpaste,
the teeth.
don't you put the squeeze on me? Debilitator, why are we always sooner or later? Bitching in the kitchen or crying in the bedroom all night. Tell me, spectator, why are we always sooner or later? Bitching in the kitchen or crying in the bedroom all night.
And that was Bitchin' in the Kitchen from the Shock Treatment soundtrack from 1981. Now, Shock Treatment, as you guys probably know already, was the follow-up to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And it's a movie that really didn't get as much love back then as it probably does now. Although, I think Shock Treatment in general is probably an unloved sort of sequel. It was originally titled The Brad and Janet Show, which I think is what it might have been a better choice for an 80s movie to be called that. It might have lured more people into it, given that it's about a game show and a television show, and Brad and Janet being kind of stuck in that. The song, there's a lot of fun songs in this movie. But for some reason, this one stuck out with me when I was thinking about songs from horror movies. I know this isn't technically a horror movie, but it's I'm calling it that anyway, since it was from the Rocky Horror. It all stems from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Jessica Harper and Cliff DeYoung star in the film, and they do the song together, and I really like them as actors and as singers. I think they're a lot of fun to watch. I think Jessica Harper is one of the most expressive singers in movies. From Phantom of the Paradise and this, I think she's just so much fun to watch while she sings, and she really, I really like her side of the "Bitch in the Kitchen" song, which is kind of a duet of sorts. So they both have their moments to shine during the song, and I've always been a fan. What say you, Ben?
Oh, I have lots to say. I like, my dream is that we would just one day do like an entire soundtrack episode devoted to the Shock Treatment soundtrack, because I love every song in this movie so much, and I love that Jessica Harper has like 5 songs in it, and that's just how, I mean, that's the only thing that's not perfect about Phantom of the Paradise, is that every song isn't sung by Jessica Harper, and I don't really feel that way because I love all the music in that movie too. But like, I would maybe like it to be an hour longer so she could have 5 more songs. But well, I actually have a complicated history with Shock Treatment, as I think a lot of people who were really obsessed with the Rocky Horror Picture Show did. I was too young to kind of see Rocky Horror at midnight in the 70s and 80s when it was such a thing. So I really kind of got on board in 1990 when they really hyped up the VHS release of it. But I immediately I saw it, and it was just this incredible tidal wave of connection. It was everything I loved. It was horror movies, it was musicals, perverse sexuality. I should say that I think I was like 7 or 8 at the time, but already these things were of great interest to me. And it was, Susan. It was my introduction to Susan Sarandon, and what a perfect introduction. So I loved it, and I watched it a million times. I had the soundtrack. I would always be dancing around to it in my bedroom. And then about 5 years later or so, I got a Rocky Horror Picture Show box set, and heard these songs from Shock Treatment on it. And I was like, well, what's Shock Treatment? So then, only then did I figure out there was a sequel. I mean, that's how obscure this movie was, because I was on top of my shit even when I was between the ages of 7 and 12. Like, if there was a sequel to a movie, I would know about it. So I rented it, and I hated it. I liked the songs, but I thought that, it just wasn't the movie that I loved. And then I didn't see it again for years and years until recently, when I had listened to the songs that I had from the box set, but I didn't see the movie until Kinder Trauma wrote about it earlier this year. So then I re-rented the movie, and I just loved it so much, and I couldn't even believe that I had ever not loved it. It was just like, oh my god, it was such a thrill. And I watched it like 4 times, which I don't even ever have time to do that anymore, but I just had to, because I loved it so much. This song is great. It's one of the best in the movie. I love that there's a song about depilators. Just how many songs do they have about depilatory cream? I think that's really great. After rewatching the movie the first time, I still didn't realize that Cliff DeYoung was playing both of the roles that he plays in the movie. That's how good he was. Mm-hmm. He sent me back to a time when I was like 5, and I actually would be tricked by that phenomenon. So I was like surprised when they were twins at the end. Maybe I was, too burnt out to be really thinking when I watched it. But I love him too. I remember the first time I saw him really hating him because I didn't think he was as cute as Barry Bostwick, and he looked too nerdy. But this time watching, I was like, he's totally cute, and I really like his singing voice. It's just weird how, you grow up and your perceptions change. So I'm a huge fan, and love this song.
I really like Cliff DeYoung. He's kind of an underrated actor. Am I wrong in thinking he might have been one of the first choices for the Rocky Horror Picture Show as Brad?
I don't know that.
remember
It's
that.
very possible.
But he's a welcome addition here. I think Barry Bostwick was busy doing things, and Susan Sarandon wanted too much money, so that's why they recast the same actors. But I like DeYoung here, and he's in a lot of movies from the 80s that were fun. One that sticks out in my head is Secret Admirer. He was the father of C. Thomas Howell.
I never made that connection. That's funny.
Yeah.
Let me ask, what's your history with the Rocky Horror Picture Show? Because that was such a New York thing during your time, but you never really mentioned it.
I kind of came to it maybe a little late. I know I saw it at the H Street Playhouse when it was still there. I don't know when it ended its run there. I went over to, I want to say, either the Village East or somewhere else, but so it was, I guess it was kind of late on in Rocky Horror world, but probably still somewhere in the 80s, late 80s. So I remember being kind of overwhelmed by it, the first experience.
Yeah.
And then that was I think theatrical was my first experience for the Rocky Horror. And then watching it on home video, and then getting into that, and then seeing it again in a theater, I think it was somewhere in the 90s. It's somewhere in Pennsylvania. My cousin kind of lived in almost rural Pennsylvania, and she took me and my sister to the local theater who was having a Rocky Horror midnight screening. And I remember that being a lot of fun. And also, my other exposure to the Rocky Horror Picture Show was the movie Fame, where they go to a screening of that. And I remember being kind of curious about it and thinking it was kind of, wow, this is an experience I want to be in, and eventually did. Shock Treatment came to me later in the 80s. I remember seeing the Key Video box, which I'm not a huge fan of the artwork. It's a Richard O'Brien, and I don't think it sells the film as well as it probably could have, and so I kind of passed it up at the video store. And eventually I rented it, and like you, really digging the songs, but maybe not the movie as much. But eventually coming around to it. So I'm glad I did, and I'm glad you did. All right, so let's move on to our number 2s. Here's yours.
In the middle of the summer, in the middle of the night, she was there from her own heartbeat. Still she heard something move, it was just out of sight, and the morning was way out of reach. Questions may be answered by the light of the day. So far away, angel, walk in the night. Walk in the night.
So that was "Bump in the Night" from Witchboard, and I'm sure that a lot of you are fans of that song. That's another one that I think I probably tried to find the cassette single of, and I couldn't. And I know I'm not the only one. I have one friend out there who probably isn't listening to this, but he told me how he used to, at the end credits of Witchboard, just like dance to the song every time he watched it, which was meant. This Witchboard for some reason was, it was a rite of passage for a lot of people, but I know a lot of gay men who were extremely drawn to this movie in a special way when they were very young. It must be because Tawny Katane is so glamorous and Kathleen Wilhoit is such a phenomenon. Plus, there's like the weird gay subtext and the killer song, and it's very 80s. I don't know. But this movie has a special meaning for gay men that I don't totally understand. I don't think it's just because of the two men having the weird bonding thing, because that's not what I even noticed when I was obsessed with it. I think I mostly just loved the synthy music and Zara Beth, the kooky psychic, and I thought that Tawny Katane was the most beautiful woman in the entire world, which, other than Heather Langenkamp. And I still feel that way. That's still true. I'm not really going to go into the plot of Witchboard, because everybody knows Tawny Katane, gets possessed by an evil spirit coming out of her Ouija board, and her husband and his former friend, who's a total yuppie douche, have to go find the secret and kind of deal with their troubled relationship. And "Bump in the Night," I believe, is the song that plays when Zara Beth, the kooky Cyndi Lauper-esque psychic, gets killed, right? She's playing the song to kind of relax after she gets home from a taxing seance. She's looking in one of her history of witches and demons and parapsychology books to try to figure out what's going on with Linda's Ouija board. And then she gets thrown out of a window onto a sundial. And I was so sad, because I just loved that character so much. But it's just like, once again, like such an 80s thing to be playing this like upbeat 80s song and then have somebody get impaled on a sundial. Yeah, I don't know. This song to me really, it is a kind of in a concentration of what I love about Witchboard. It's just so fun, so 80s, so like kind of old-fashioned and spooky. There's something so old-fashioned about a Ouija board. So it's this great combination of a new wave sensibility and kind of old spookiness. I love it. Oh, I love it so much. And I was so happy to rediscover this movie on Blu-ray from Scream Factory. It really did looked so much more cinematic than it ever had on video or even on the older DVD. I had always thought the movie had a slightly made-for-video quality, and it looked just so gorgeous to see it in that way. And this is a really heartwarming movie for me. This is like very much like comfort food. It's like The Witchboard and like The Mirror Has Two Faces, or like the movies I go to be comforted. So what about you? What do you think about the song in the movie?
I know for the movie, when it came out, I believe in very early 87, I immediately kind of fell in love with it. It was the perfect mid to late 80s kind of horror movie that focused on supernatural elements, occult elements. And I know I was obsessed with having a Ouija board growing up. We grew up kind of religious. My grandmother was a Jehovah's Witness, and so Ouija boards were very much frowned upon. And so I was obsessed with the idea of having a Ouija board, and especially after I saw Amityville 3D in the movie theater. And Meg Ryan, who's really weird in that movie. I was kind of obsessed with her for a bit too, who introduces the Ouija board into that film. And then 4 years later with the Ouija board kind of possessing Tawny Katane, making her hair even bigger, if that's even possible. It just was so much fun. And then it came out on video, and I enjoyed it on video, but maybe a little less. I guess maybe it didn't hold up as well for some reason, but it was fun, and I always had fun with it. And then I kind of forgot about it for a long time, and then it came out on DVD, and I enjoyed it and listening to the commentary, but then sort of forgot about it for a while. And then, of course, the Blu-ray came out from Scream Factory, and when I watched it, I completely fell in love with the movie again after all those years. And it's just like, for all the elements you mentioned, it just it's comfortable to watch. The music is fun. I really like the Steel Breeze track. It very much evokes that 87 feel or 86 feel, and I'm a big fan. And I love Kathleen Wilhoit in the film. I think what she brings is a lot of levity to a movie that could have been overly serious or very melodramatic. There's a lot of melodrama in this movie, especially between the two guys, and I could totally see why that's what part of why it became kind of a almost like a gay film in a way, their relationship. Yeah. Because of the whole melodrama in their relationship. But Kathleen Wilhoit comes along and she makes it kind of funny and silly, and that's that very 80s edition. And that's why I love movies from the 80s. I know movies got really silly, especially horror movies got really silly between 85 and 90, and they got very effects heavy. This movie doesn't go the route of the effects, which is nice. It's kind of more of a drama that also happens to be a horror movie. And I think that's fun.
I love that it's like such a combination. It's so character driven, and it's like so weirdly like this like serious story about friendship and love, but then like the goofiest horror movie combined with it at the same time. It's perfect.
You get the best of both worlds, and that's why we're fans. And I hope you are too. So let's move on to my next track. Here it is.
Or you can stay. You choose your life. You're free to fly. Go on and fly.
To
Okay, that was The Lucky One by Laura Branigan. And this song was featured in the Killer Party soundtrack during the party sequence. Now, this might be an odd song to choose for a horror film, but I was a Laura Branigan fan throughout the 80s, and an unabashed Laura Branigan fan, so deal with it. I like that the movie has like that kind of metalish songs and ballads, a mix of metal songs and ballads. And we covered Killer Party in our holiday horror podcast, so it's definitely a movie we talked about a lot, and maybe for some ad nauseum, but I love this movie. I can't get enough of it. I think all the songs of the soundtrack are fun, and I'm glad I got a chance to mention The Lucky One by Laura Branigan. Of course, she was famous for doing the song from, was it Flashdance? And she did several other things that I like. A song called Self-Control. And I think this Lucky One song actually came off her Self-Control album. It was an award-winning song in Japan. Apparently Laura Branigan was really big in Japan. And maybe not as appreciated in this country as that one. I don't know. I just think it's a fun song, and it makes a nice contrast to a horror movie. And I think a lot of the songs we'll be picking today are songs that are kind of interesting and maybe are not immediately horror movie songs in your mind, but there they are in these horror films. What's your thoughts on The Lucky One?
I just love Laura Branigan. And have you noticed that in Japan they have better taste in everything? Like whenever there is a star here that doesn't get enough attention they deserve, like Alyssa Milano, for example. In Japan, you hear that they're just obsessed with them and that they just revel in them, and it just makes me wish I lived there a little bit. Yeah, I'm so happy that Laura Branigan contributed a song to a horror movie, because like you, I'm very familiar with Gloria from Flashdance. But I love this song. I love Killer Party. Killer Party, I just think of it as such a colorful, kind of joyful 80s movie. It's an 80s movie with a lot of vibrancy and life, and I think that I feel that way about Laura Branigan songs. They always have a lot of power to them, and they kind of just make you excited. So and I think it's a perfect compliment to that song. And to think that her voice is very like Killer Party to me. I don't know how to describe what I mean by that. But I think of Killer Party as kind of, what's the word for it? Like it's like a silky horror movie almost, or something. You know what I mean? It's just, it goes down so smooth. And I think that's also true of Laura Branigan singing. And that might sound totally weird.
No, I agree. It's it has that mid-80s vibe. Killer Party was shot in 84, and the song had come out then. And it has that very 80s produced vibe that I like. Sadly, Laura passed away from a brain aneurysm. That's pretty sad. But hopefully people will enjoy her music for years to come. It's also worth noting that Laura Branigan was in a movie. She was in a teen sex comedy called Muggsy's Girls.
No, I didn't know that.
Starring Ruth Gordon.
What?
It's a movie that I'm proud to say that I own on VHS and have owned since the late 80s or early 90s. It's super silly and totally forgettable, but I still like it.
Is she a good actress?
I thought she was decent. I thought she was pretty good for someone who was just mostly known for being a pop star and not an actress. I like it. And I like her. We miss you, Laura. And let's move on to your next track. Here it is.
Some were born to dance, to be the girl in the mirror, and the others want to be her. If a girl could wish, it would only be to be a girl like this. Oh, 'cause she has it all, and for all they know, that is all there is. Young girls, some were born to dance, born to take a chance. Others sleep at home, and they sleep alone. No one even knows.
That was Born to Have It All from Carrie by Katie Irving. And this is the sort of the less flashy song from Carrie. I don't mean that. Neither of the songs are flashy. It's less well known. Like, this is not the song that, we played I Never Dreamed Someone Like You Would Love Someone Like Me on your last horror podcast. I almost played it on Smooth Grooves, but then I didn't, because that's just the song you think of. It comes at such a powerful moment when Tommy and Carrie are having their kind of almost psychedelically intoxicating dance. But Born to Have It All, which plays just kind of during the prom when Carrie's talking to Miss Collins and when she's kind of flirting with Tommy, is such a touching, beautiful, beautiful song that's just as much worthy of attention. It almost feels more melancholy to me than Someone Like You, which I like. I really wish that Katie Irving had more of a career. I wish she had an album. I love both of these songs so much. It's exactly the kind of song I like. It's very 70s, very, very girly. Like, you just kind of imagine that these songs are like emanating from the cover of a Judy Blume book from like an original paperback from 1976. But they're very touching, and she has a nice voice. She was actually Amy Irving's sister, right?
That's what I'm kind of not sure about. I've heard reports that she was, and I've read things that she wasn't, so it's not completely clear to me. I want to say that she is, because it's too much of a coincidence that there's another Irving, but it's possible, I guess. Wish I knew.
What are your thoughts on this song?
When I chose that song for the previous horror podcast, it really was a coin flip between the two songs because they're both equally amazing to me. The Carrie soundtrack in general is something. It's probably my top 3 horror soundtracks of all time, and it's so beautiful. Like whether it's the instrumental or the song or the two songs. Pino Donaggio is an amazing composer, and I believe he wrote both of those songs, and he does a great job of tapping into the mind of a teenage girl. This older Italian man who makes essentially music for horror movies and cult movies taps into what it's like to be a teenage girl, and I think that's really interesting. And I really like Katie Irving's voice. I think it does kind of mirror what you would think Carrie's voice would be like if she was a singer. We all know what we all know what Sissy Spacek sounds like because she did Coal Miner's Daughter, and rightfully won the Academy Award for that movie. So we know her voice very well. But it does. It always struck to me. It always struck a chord with me that it would be like Carrie singing, and it's coming completely from her point of view. These two songs, and I think they're sweet, sentimental, but in completely the right way. And I love them to death. And if anyone disagrees, I'm going to take them with me, much like Carrie.
I really need to get. I don't actually have the soundtrack, the CD soundtrack of the score of Carrie. I don't listen to scores as much as you would think that I do. Sometimes listening to horror scores away from the movie, like it spooks me out too much. It's bizarre. I don't even understand how my mind works. But that score I just adore. And I was watching Carrie with my class on Blu-ray in this great theater at my school, and just hearing the score presented so clearly, and it is just unbelievably lush and gorgeous. And I noticed little nuances that I never had before, and I was like, this is really a score I need to have and listen to like all the time.
One of my favorite memories is driving my car through Central Park and having the Carrie song, one of the songs from Carrie. I think it was this one, and just playing really kind of loudly, but not in a way where it sounded harsh, but it was just kind of loud in the car. And I'm driving through Central Park, and just it was autumn, so the trees were beautiful and everything. Everything felt like perfect just for the 2-minute drive through Central Park.
You were
from the west side to the east side.
You were born to have it all.
I was for those 2 minutes. And then it was over. Oh well, the memories we have. All right, so that was that. And here is my next track. that was I Love the Way You Move by the great Mike Theodore Orchestra, who I'm not sure anyone knows about. But this was a song from the Mardi Gras Massacre soundtrack. Mardi Gras Massacre came out in 1978 and is a low-budget kind of slasher movie set in New Orleans during Mardi Gras, of course, about a crazy killer who cuts out the hearts of naked ladies, and it's also set against the world of disco. So you have a crazy killer in New Orleans and disco, which already wins my heart. It's a really low budget movie. Kind of looks like it was shot in like 2 weeks, if that. But the movie has almost wall-to-wall disco, which may make some people insane. But I absolutely love. The song itself comes from the Cosmic Win album by Mike Theodore. And believe it or not, Mike Theodore's album was kind of a hit when it came out in the disco clubs. But he's since faded into almost total obscurity, which happens, especially since the disco genre is completely frowned upon pretty much, but has its comebacks here and there. But I like this. I like this album. I had a pretty weird roommate who introduced this movie to me. All the songs in the movie are a lot of fun. There's one actually called Belly Boogie, which
love it.
A lot of fun to listen to. And this particular song that I chose occurs during a big dance sequence where the lead actress in the movie has a big dance number, a very Saturday Night Fever like dance number. Actually, her disco outfit, her red disco dress, kind of very much resembles Lynn Gorney's dress in Saturday Night Fever. So this movie is very much, very much capitalizing on that film and that success. So it must have been made pretty quickly in '78. And so she's having her big dance number, and then she kind of steals some guy off the dance floor who's dancing with this girl. She just kind of dances him away from her. And the girl gets really pissed off, and they start fighting on the dance floor. But they kind of start by doing a dance fight. So they're fighting, but they're also dancing, the girls. So you get a total disco cat fight where the girls are just kind of dancing and they're fighting, and then they eventually end up on the floor. And it was so much fun to watch in this really silly, bad movie that I enjoy. I take it you haven't seen the film, because I
haven't seen the whole film, but I watched some stuff on YouTube to kind of prepare myself, and I obviously need to see it without question. My favorite thing about the dance scene that you're describing is this is very me, but like, yeah, of course, all the dance drama is great, but I just kept fixating on the disco floor. This is one of my favorite lit disco floors that I've ever seen. It's like, it looks kind of like it goes on forever. Like the lights just keep going down and down and down to like this disco abyss, and I was just really, really into that, and I just wanted to be dancing on that floor with them. But the rest are, the song, the song is great too. And I also listened to Belly Boogie?
Belly Boogie, yeah.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that also. It's a long song, but I guess a lot of the songs from that time were, because you're just supposed to be able to dance your ass off to them.
I hope you're not completely hating me by now, especially if you're not into disco, but check out Mardi Gras Massacre.
They need to open their minds.
Yes. Open your minds and be careful of your heart, because it may be ripped out. Especially, this movie has a lot of full frontal nudity. So
All women, I'm sure, right?
yes, all women. It's pretty exploitive. It kind of reminded me of the H.D. Lewis movies in a bit. I went to a restaurant on Staten Island a couple of years ago, maybe a little less than 2 years ago, and it was, I guess, a New Orleans themed restaurant, and there it was, a poster for Mardi Gras Massacre hanging in the restaurant. I never thought I'd
The fact that it's
see
Staten Island just makes it even more special.
Exactly. It's so utterly random. It's utterly random that we actually would have gone to that restaurant. But our favorite restaurant on Staten Island, there's a really good restaurant on Staten Island called Inoteca Maria. So I'm plugging the restaurant. It's an Italian restaurant with a rotating roster of grandmas who cook.
Nice.
And it's always really delicious. It just so happened when we were on Staten Island, decided to go eat. They were closed that day, or they weren't open for lunch or something. And so we ended up at this restaurant. And the food wasn't very good. But Mardi Gras Massacre was there, staring back at me on the wall. So that was fun. Another point from Mardi Gras Massacre before we move on quickly. If you have access to this movie, it was released on DVD from Code Red. Check out the opening title sequence, the title card. It's really weird. It's bugged me ever since it was released on video. I had the video for a long time, and the DVD print also has the same issue. If you look at the title card, and if you look closely at it, you'll see like someone standing behind the name of the movie, Mardi Gras Massacre. It's almost like a shadow of somebody. It's really weird, and it's kind of a mystery. It kind of spooks me a bit. It's probably the scariest thing about the movie. And that was Mardi Gras Massacre, and I love the way you move. One day we have to go out disco dancing, Ben.
Oh, definitely. I'd love that. Is there anywhere that you even can anymore? There must be some place that still is a 70s night.
There's probably.
But the question is, would they actually play legit 70s classics like the gems from Mardi Gras Massacre, or would it all be the kind of chestnuts that you've heard 1,000 times before that, have lost some of their luster from overuse?
I'm sure many tracks from the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly.
So here is your number 4, and those of you out there into horror films, you may know this one.
I need you so bad, baby.
that, of course, needs no introduction. All Night Long from A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Probably one of the most notorious and beloved pop songs and dance sequences in a horror movie. I don't think it's overestimating to say that. This song takes place, of course, when Jesse, played by the dreamy and adorable Mark Patton, who I just love hearing him in interviews now, too. I love him so much. His father, who's a jerk, of course, because this is a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, makes him clean his room or unpack his room because they just moved into, Nancy Thompson's old house. And he's like, he doesn't want to do it, which I totally relate to, because cleaning, packing, unpacking, these are all of my least favorite things in the world. So he's like, what am I going to do to make this torturous task bearable for myself? And then he's like, yes, obviously, I'm going to put in my cassette tape of this song, and I'm going to put on my new wave sunglasses and just crazily dance in front of my Kate Bush poster, and eventually to grab this phallus thing with this, which I still don't know what it is, and kind of look like I'm jerking it off near my penile area. And then my girlfriend is going to come in and see me, and it's going to be terrible. And it's just so great. It's so weird. And I love how good he is at snapping. Because I've never been able to snap. So the fact that he can do it with both hands at the same time, in alignment with his sunglasses, that to me is just the coolest thing ever. I love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies so much. The first four, especially, they just give me everything I need so much that it almost makes me want to cry because I'm so grateful. And this song is a perfect example of that. As I'm, of course, dying to hear what you have to say about it.
I'm with you on the first four Nightmare films. When I hear people who say they're not into the Nightmare films, I do want to cry. They are so great and so important to us in the 80s and the 90s. They did a lot for us. They were our home in a way. 1428 Elm Street was our home.
That's true. I really do feel that way.
And Nightmare 2 is... I know it has a different meaning now than it did in 1985 when it came out. But... I loved it then, and I love it now, and for all these new additional reasons. And that scene in his bedroom. Teen films, when they get it right, capture those really awkward moments in life really well.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is such a great awkward moment captured on film. And yeah, this movie just brilliantly captures that. And it's a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I think these movies say a lot about what teens are going through, and warts and all. When you're singing and you're dancing by yourself, and someone catches you, it's really awkward. And
it's such a mom thing to do, to just open the door, not knock, just open the door and let your girlfriend in. It's just really, it's Mom, come on. I feel that anger.
How dare you, Mom?
Let me ask you, because I saw Nightmare on Elm Street 2 on video before it developed the kind of cult following, or at least it was before the internet, so I didn't know about the cult following that it has now. I didn't know about all the discussion of gay subtext and cam. But I'm interested to know what it was like for you, because you probably saw it in the theater. What did you make of it when you just saw it when it hit you for the first time, without any preparatory knowledge?
I thought it was a lot like the first one, just a scary horror movie, and I'm sure I reacted more to the Freddy character and how scary and creepy he was. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I enjoyed the Jesse character and his friendship with Grady. I'm sure I didn't really get the overtones or anything, or hidden messages about their relationship. I'm glad a movie has them, and that it means something differently now, possibly. It's just it's a fun movie. It's scary. It's still scary. I think the Nightmare series, for a lot of people, changed, and Freddy became kind of jokey, whatever. But I appreciate where it went, at least the first 4 films, and I guess Freddy was still kind of scary, and with the second one.
I think I actually might find Freddy a little bit scarier in part 2 than in part 1. I don't think either of them are scary, but there's something very ominous about him in part 2.
I remember reacting in the movie theater to the scene where he actually comes out of Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
That really creeped me out, but I'm not sure if I had a strong reaction to the horror elements after part 2. I think it became a bit more just like a fun popcorn movie to me.
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster. I
think the characters got stronger as they went along, and like in 3 and 4, and I think I bonded more with the characters in the Elm Street movies at that point. And of course, we discussed part 4 and how much we love that one, and probably our favorite in the series. But part 2 is definitely up there. I love the first 4 films like you so much, and I'm glad this track is in the movie. It's a scene you can watch over and over and have a lot of fun with. And let's move on to my number 5.
Romeo, 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 Romeo. When we first met up, we started off all wrong, and your pace was just too fast for hanging on. So you left me cold and lonely while you were out there on the run. You were a heartbreaker, baby, breaking them just for fun. Now here you come again, saying get back in the ring for another bout. This time I think I can do without Romeo, Romeo, gotta go. Romeo, this Juliet, she don't live here no more. Pack up your things, head back out the window. I'm looking around for a new Romeo. Now you call me on the line to tell me that you've changed, but I know that it's just a game you Romeos play. 'Cause I've fallen once before into the same routine. Then you hit me with your eyes and talk your way clean. Oh, you're coming on so sweet, but it's only skin deep as the saying goes. And this shows a tragedy, don't you know? Romeo, Romeo, gotta go. Romeo, this Juliet, she don't live here no more. Pack up your things, head back out the window. I'm looking around for a new Romeo. Oh, you were cool up on your cloud, giving me the runaround. What a fool! Don't look now, I've changed the rules. So goodbye, Romeo. So you think you broke my heart, but the breaking's mine to start. And before I do, won't you tell me, who do you think you are? Romeo, Romeo, gotta go. Romeo, this Juliet, she don't live here no more. Pack up your things, head back out the window. I'm looking around for a new Romeo. Romeo, Romeo, gotta go. Romeo, this Juliet, she don't live here no more. up your things, head back out the window. I'm looking around for a new Romeo.
And that was Romeo Romeo by Brenda Vizcarra. And that was featured in the Halloween 5 soundtrack, which came out in 1989. Now, I know the Halloween sequels, much like some of the Elm Street sequels, kind of divide people. And I know parts 4 and 5 and 6 seem to really divide people. But I have to say I'm a big fan of 4 and 5. Actually, much more so in part 5. I just adore that movie and its characters, especially the Tina character. And part of that's because I think the Rachel character, who is kind of the heroine of part 4, Danielle Harris's big sister of sorts. And I think by the 5th one, I think they just didn't know what to do with her character. I think she was slightly boring in part 4. I still liked her, but I thought she kind of paled in comparison, especially with Laurie Strode a bit. And in part 5, she gets a perm. She's still boy crazy. There's a scene. The song occurs during a scene early on in the film when she gets a shower, and Michael's stalking her outside, and it's just a kind of a long scene of him just watching her, and then she's showering, and the song kind of kicks in and plays. So it's like, in a way, it's spoiler alert. It's Rachel's last moment in the film, really, last moment of fun before she gets brutally stabbed to death by Michael Myers. I guess he was a bit bored of her. And next, killing off Rachel means more screen time for Tina, who I'm a big fan of. I think her character is so 1989 and so wacky and high energy and kind of all over the place. Her outfits are, if you take a good look at them, are kind of insane. Weird mix of denim and weird frilly things, and buttons and all kinds of things, and her hair is big. I just love Tina. She really outshines Rachel for me because she's just so high energy, and Rachel was kind of low energy. But during that pivotal shower scene where Rachel gets her last moments, she does have a bit of energy, and she's kind of fun to watch. But then she dies, so that was her last blast, and this song pays tribute to that. And how do you feel about that?
I do. I love that scene, the shower scene. I think it's. I think actually it's a little spooky. Any scene where somebody's just kind of going about their business and there's a killer lurking around. It always, that's spookier to me than when a person knows they're being chased, because it seems more plausible or something. And I love how long the scene is, and that it just takes forever for this song to play, and it's almost like a weird like music video. I don't know. It's very not Halloween like to me, but in a really pleasing way. And yeah, I always remember those early scenes, the first half of the movie more than the second half. And hearing you, it's been a while since I've even seen it. I started watching the first half the other day, but I fell asleep. This is always what's happening to me lately. I'm always so tired that I just cannot stay awake for a movie. So, but I remember like the party in the second half and people running around screaming a lot. But hearing you talking about Tina, it really makes me want to do a close reevaluation of this movie, of Halloween Part 5. it's so crazy how different the Myers house is in Halloween 5. Like I couldn't even believe it when I was watching it the other day. I was like, God, that is like really insane. But I kind of like it though. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah, it's
those are my incoherent thoughts.
No. It's interesting that the movie kind of deviates a bit from the previous installments and kind of tries to become its own thing in a way. But I guess it angers some people, like some of the continuity stuff and Michael's look and reveals and I'm sure the ending bothered some people. But I don't know, just Halloween 5 is pure pop entertainment for me. And I'm glad that a fifth sequel can do that, because I guess of the three big franchises, I of Halloween, Friday the 13th, and A Nightmare on Elm Street, I think Halloween 5 was my favorite of the three.
Wow. Like your favorite sequel ever?
My favorite of the fives. The part 5.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's interesting. I'd have to decide between Friday the 13th 5 and that. Definitely not A Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Nightmare on Elm Street 5 I like, but I think is kind of flawed in its story and I think it just didn't work. But Halloween 5 doesn't have a lot of story. It's like the typical slasher movie of the time. Michael returns and he's killing a bunch of teenagers and trying to kill his niece. But I don't know. I just it always sticks with me, and I like silly slasher movies. So there's that.
And I wonder if you've noticed this, that for some reason, the Halloween franchise in the late 80s, and taking on that kind of late 80s feel, always felt a lot more weird and incongruous to me than certainly, I mean, the Nightmare on Elm Street series started in the mid-'80s practically, so it didn't ever really undergo a transition. But like Friday the 13th, for some reason, was able to much more gracefully transition into the mid-late 80s. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because Halloween started in the 70s. I don't know. But I actually like that about it. I like how much it makes me aware of its 80s-ness and how different it is. But I always thought it was very strange.
Yeah, I guess because the first two Halloweens feel very kind of still 70s.
Yeah.
And Halloween 3 was its own thing, and then 4 returned. But by then it really did feel like 10 years later.
Yeah.
And then I think there's even a big jump between 88 and 89. I feel like 89 definitely feels more poppy and vibrant. And it's an interesting contrast to what the director was going for. I guess he was trying to go for more of a gothic kind of vibe, and some of the shots of the house are kind of very gothic looking, and then you have a very like pop sensibility in the middle of all that. So it was kind of an interesting contrast to me. I think Tina is mostly responsible for that. And Cookie Woman. All right, so let's move on to your next track. Here it is.
this is to me one of the most epic 80s horror movie songs, and that's appropriate because it's from The Lost Boys, which is one of the most epic 80s horror movies to me. This is a movie, The Lost Boys, I saw originally right when it came out on video in 1988, 1989. And it didn't, something about it didn't do it for me. I think the build-up might have been too slow, and I was really skeeved out by the scene where they eat like worms and maggots out of a Chinese food container. I was just like, I can't with this movie right now, and I turned it off. But then eventually I caught up with it a few years later on TV, and I fell in love with it and watched it a million times. But then I lost track of it for years until they played it for its 30th anniversary or something in Westwood in LA, which is actually where it premiered originally, and Corey Feldman was there, and I went, and it was so great. And one of the things that really stood out to me was the soundtrack. I love this soundtrack. I love every song on it. I love the Run DMX. I love the cover of People Are Strange. It's just so like great 80s, like weird, like kind of hip, but like not hip, like Warner Brothers trying to be hip, and that really works for me. But Cry Little Sister might be my favorite. It's really one of my favorite songs from any horror movie ever, and I just love it. It plays over the opening credits, and that's very engaging. But I love the hyper glossy kind of music video montage where Jason Patric and Jamie Gertz like have sex and then are like flying, and the song is playing, and there's a lot of like dry ice, like white smoke, and just to see that on the big screen was truly intoxicating. You can't get it watching it on TV, which I have a million times in every format imaginable. It's nothing compares to seeing it in 35 with the crazy Dolby stereo or whatever it was in 1988. It takes you away, and that to me is almost like the quintessential Joel Schumacher scene. It's just so glossy and so intoxicating in its glossiness, even though it's lacking in any real substance. But it's very, very late 80s hip, and Jason Patric and Jamie Gertz are beautiful, and Kiefer Sutherland is sexy, and I love it, and I love that Diane Wiest is in this movie. This has nothing to do with the song, but I think Diane Wiest should be in every horror movie. I mean, she should be in every movie. So yeah, but Cry Little Sister. I just kind of want to live in this song, and I think the late 80s, 87 to 90 is when I really start to remember being cognizant of the pop culture around me. So it brings me back to that time, being at the mall and, just seeing posters from Nightmare on Elm Street 4 at Spencer's and stuff like that. It really brings me back to that moment when that movie came out. It makes me very happy. What about you?
I think I mentioned that Halloween 5 really felt like 1989. And this movie, more than any other movie, maybe in the history of movies, really feels like the time it was filmed in. It's so 1987. I recently talked about this movie on Corey Feldman, Corey Haim podcast, so I won't completely bore you with why I love The Lost Boys, and I love it so much. I think it's kind of, in its own way, the best movie ever made.
I see that. I wouldn't argue with you.
It's so pure of its time. It never tries to be a classic example of the vampire film. It never tries to say, I'm timeless. It's pure 1987. It's Joel Schumacher making a movie about beautiful vampires trying to seduce beautiful people into joining their gang. And what's wrong with watching that if it's done in a way that's not condescending or stupid? I think it's a fun film. I think it's witty at times, and it's just gorgeous to look at. And I love that you mentioned Diane Wiest, because I like you, I absolutely love her. This movie came off of her Oscar win. She got to be in a big budget teen vampire movie, and that's another reason why I love this movie. It's a teen vampire movie. We had an R-rated movie for teens and preteens. Originally, I mentioned this on the last podcast, but I'll mention it again. But that this movie was originally going to be about Goonies kind of kids as vampires or fighting vampires, and I would have totally been into that as well. But if they did go that route, we wouldn't have the scenes of Michael and Star. There wasn't a love interest before. And I'm a little mad at Eric for not mentioning the love scene between those two. I think he mentioned there was no love story in The Lost Boys. So I scolded him and spanked him for that. But there's very much a love story in The Lost Boys. At least a lust story. Right. He's in lust with Star, but maybe in love with David. Or by David's ways. Totally. So there's definitely a lot going on in The Lost Boys if you want to read into it or not. And I totally appreciate that. And The Lost Boys was one of my most memorable movie-going experiences ever. And you can look up the Korea podcast if you want to find out why. Yeah, I can't wait to listen to that. So much fun. And I really like that the song opens up the movie. It really sets the vibe and says, okay, we're kind of creepy, we're very 80s, and you're going to have fun. And that's exactly what I want. I love The Lost Boys. And let's move on to my next track.
Son of a bitch.
What's this? If you go off and I find you with Sue?
We're just friends. Well, sometimes things seem alright, but they really not. I've been awake many nights, many times I've thought, well, I never find the answer to what I'm thinking of. So I just keep on thinking and doing the gangster rock. The gangster rock. The gangster Now some people are so lonely, others are so glad. Only the difference would be childhood you had. Well, you might have been rocking with Elvis, king of the rhythm and blues, but you really ain't been around till you boogie in the gangster sound. Oh yeah, the gangster rock, woo, the gangster rock.
I'm gonna nail your ass tonight.
That's what you think.
I'm going to, I'm serious.
Maybe you should let me.
Oh yeah.
Well, sometimes things seem alright,
And that was the Gangster Rock by Felony. And this song, which originally was almost 8 minutes long in the film, I had to cut it down a bit for you guys so I don't lose you completely, is a really kind of over-the-top moment in the movie. It's during a roller rink scene and a murder sequence. So you have roller dancing, roller disco, and you have a murder going on, and you have this crazy kind of new wave, near glam goth band, or whatever you want to call them, Felony, performing this song live in the film. I absolutely love slasher movies of the early 80s, and 1981 was probably the best year for slasher movies. And you had great slasher movies, and you had silly throwaway slasher movies. I guess Graduation Day is one of the silly throwaway slasher movies, but it was always memorable for me. And maybe it's because of this crazy song and a lot of the crazy moments in the movie, but it's unforgettable. When I saw this film, what was it, about 10 years ago at a retro screening, it was part of a triple feature, and by the time they got to this movie, and especially during this scene with Felony playing their song, almost the entire audience walked out.
I never.
Well, there were a handful of us left, and we kind of all looked at each other and enjoyed what was left. It's a really silly, kind of schizophrenic horror movie, slasher movie, but I think it's worth sticking with, especially if you like that kind of thing. I guess it almost kind of anticipated the MTV kind of generation in a bit. The movie has a kind of a crazy MTV-like editing style, and MTV, I guess, hadn't really premiered by the time this movie came out, or was around the same time. So the movie kind of anticipated some of that, and there's a lot of music in the movie, which is interesting for a slasher movie at the time. Often it's all about the score, and sometimes the occasional pop songs, but there's a lot of music in this movie. And it seems that a lot of the scenes were edited with the music in mind, which is kind of interesting, especially at the beginning with the whole race and the song The Winner, which I also like. I actually could have picked quite a few songs from this movie, but I didn't pick the song that was during, I think one of the characters starts playing his harmonica and singing and dancing during lunch, and everyone starts playing along, so it's kind of like a cheesy Fame homage, but done in a really bad style. So that song I didn't pick, though it's kind of fun just watching, just for its cheesy value. Felony, the band who does this track, is a band that I kind of like. They had a song called The Fanatic that I really liked. That was featured in Valley Girl, but also The Lonely Lady with Pia Zadora. And it was in one more movie. It was in a movie from a couple of years ago called Take Me Home Tonight, which was like an 80s throwback. So I'm a fan of Felony, and I'm a fan of the song. How about you?
It's interesting that this movie was made in 1981, because when I haven't, believe it or not, I haven't seen this. And the reason I haven't seen this movie is because it was from Trauma, which they released the DVD. And I often really don't like their films. I'm sorry to say. I respect them, but I just can't get into them. So I never really realized that this was actually just like an early 80s slasher movie. But watching clips from it for this podcast, I'm surprised almost to hear it's from 1981, because it does feel a little bit later. It feels like maybe 1984. because of everything that you said. Yeah, I love the band in this movie. I love when he goes into falsetto, which I don't think he does in The Fanatic. I think I always love that when a male singer goes falsetto during a new wave song. I felt like during this big set piece, the roller disco, and it was that Linnea Quigley being murdered.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another reason that it's shocking I haven't seen this movie, because Linnea Quigley is like one of my 5 favorite actresses of all time. And I didn't even know she was in this movie. But I almost felt like that scene reminded me of something I would have written in like when I was like 10. Like if I'd written a slasher movie, I would have been, and I mean that as a compliment. But like, wouldn't it be cool to have like a disco scene and like someone gets killed, but like the disco music is playing when they get killed, and it's not scary at all. I mean, whatever. I mean, you don't really go to an early '80s slasher movie to be scared, but it's like there's just absolutely nothing scary about it. It's just like weird. It's great, and it's very colorful, which I really enjoy too. I love this song, and I love that it's 8 minutes long. I love that this movie is an 8 minute long roller skating scene.
It's pretty over the top, so prepare thyself. You also get Vanna White if you watch the movie. That's
right. She's one of the teeny boppers in it, right?
Right. She just pops up once in a while, giggling with her friend. It's kind of awesome.
So great.
A lot of fun to be had. And this was from the director of Tomboy, which is pretty awesome. I love Tomboy. Okay, so let's move on to your next track. Here it is.
Terribly inefficient, I might add.
When you find you're in trouble, need help.
You need help.
On the double, one thing just remember to do. Let yourself go. Yell Geronimo. That's when I come running to you.
Running to you. Hey, Geronimo.
When you need me,
Geronimo.
when you want me,
Geronimo.
hey baby, let's go.
Geronimo. Geronimo. Geronimo.
Yeah.
Baby, let's go. Geronimo. I'll be there.
Right beside you to help
You to help
and to guide you until baby we see it through. Ah, don't you know? Hey Geronimo.
Geronimo.
That's when I'll
Hey,
come running to you.
I'll come running to you. Hey, Geronimo.
When you need me,
Geronimo.
when you want me,
Geronimo.
hey baby, let's go.
Geronimo. Geronimo.
Yeah.
Geronimo.
We are going back in time now. We don't do that much 60s stuff here at Retro Movie Love, but this is a song that's very dear to my heart, Geronimo, which is from by Nancy Sinatra. It's from The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini. Now, I don't know if any of you, Michael, or any of you out there ever watched AMC American Pop. Michael, you probably didn't, because I know that you're a purist. You don't watch movies on TV very much. But this was kind of like the last great horror / B movie program that I can remember. It was in the late 90s and early 2000s. I mean, yeah, it was like mid to late 90s and early 2000s, because it was when I was in high school. And AMC every Saturday night would just show weird B movies and pop paraphernalia like the 60s TV special Movin' with Nancy. I remember Nancy Sinatra used to pop up on it all the time, and I love her, so it was always exciting. And yeah, they showed this bad movie, The Ghost of the Invisible Bikini, like over and over again. I feel like every other weekend it was The Ghost of the Invisible Bikini, and I'd always just have it on in the background when my friends were over or whatever. And I don't even remember what happens in it. I think it's about a bunch of, it was kind of a late entry in the Annette Funicello, Frankie Avalon Beach Blanket series. I don't think Frankie or Annette are in this. I have this vague feeling that maybe Frankie is, but I'm not totally sure. It's about a bunch of teenagers who love to hang out at the beach and dance to Nancy Sinatra and wear bikinis and be cute. And they end up spending the night in a mansion where there's a ghost with an invisible bikini. And you know that, like, the title was supposed to suggest something much dirtier than it actually is in the movie. But when you see the ghost, the invisible bikini, of course, it's not just a woman naked, because that's what you would look like if you were wearing an invisible bikini, right? No, the bikini, you just see it right through it. You kind of you see to what's on the other side of the woman in the areas where she's wearing a bikini. And I don't think it's really even a horror movie. I don't think it was supposed to be scary, but it has that kind of fake spooky beach blanket slumber party feel. And Geronimo, I just think, is a really dynamite song, and it was kind of hard to find for a while, but then Nancy Sinatra released a greatest hits album of, like, her most 60s stuff called Nancy A Go-Go or something. And I was so happy that the song was on it. Have you seen Ghost in the Invisible Bikini?
I don't say this very often, but I have not seen this movie. I don't know why I haven't seen it, because I do like those beach blanket bingo kind of movies. One of my favorite movies all time. It's called Lord Love a Duck from the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of combined the teen angst and teen comedy with, like, a bikini beach movie. And it was kind of an interesting combination. So having a horror and a beach movie was kind of a fun combination. Actually, now that I think about it, there's another movie that I love called The Horror of Party Beach, which is a really, like, a B or even C movie, but it's a lot of fun. But I unfortunately haven't seen this one, but I did watch that kind of clip with the music, and I really like Nancy Sinatra, and I think she's always fun to listen to. And I was a big fan of her Moving with Nancy special. I think that's absolutely great and brilliant, and very 60s and weird and sometimes. So it was fun to watch this one, watch this clip, because you get to see Nancy Sinatra singing on the beach in the middle of a horror movie. Do you know when it occurs in the film?
Oh, God. I my vague memory is that it is somewhere in, like, the first 20 minutes, like, before the plot really gets going.
Gotcha.
But I'm not 100% sure of that. I think that's true.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. I'm glad you had something to say about the film, because I don't have much to say about this one. But other than, I really dig the song. And I
remember it's not a very good movie. It's kind of a perfect movie to have in the background. But I'd sort of like to see it again, because it's been such a long time, and I have good memories of it.
All right, so that was The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini. Here's your next track.
Reaching out for the breath.
that was Run Between the Raindrops by Pat Benatar. What a profound, angsty song, as Pat Benatar does so well. And it was in the perfect movie for it, The Stepfather from 1987, which is... I love The Stepfather. The Stepfather really reminds me of the town where I grew up. Like The Stepfather and Serial Mom, which I think we've talked about before, kind of complement each other. Like Serial Mom is kind of the comedy version of The Stepfather. That is just what my suburban town was like. So I really loved this when I was growing up. And it's scary, too. I mean, The Stepfather is an amazing movie because it's alternately very funny in a dark, dark way and very, very chilling and disturbing. I'm sure most of you have seen it. Terry O'Quinn plays this creepy serial killer who murders his family and then moves to a new town and has this very Ward Cleaver kind of thing going on. Like, he just wants everything to be perfect, but he's like really aggressive in achieving that perfection. And he marries Shelley Hack, which is so great. And she's actually good at this movie. I love Shelley Hack and everything, but she was kind of known as one of the two really bad actress Charlie's Angels, Shelley Hack and Tanya Roberts. I adore both of them. But she's good in this. She's perfect as this kind of naive, unsuspecting mother. A divorcee who marries this dickwad. And Jill Schoelen plays her angsty daughter who doesn't trust him for a minute. So of course I identified with her. I was the 13-year-old who could see through all the suburban, bullshit to the evil that lay beneath. And Jill Schoelen just sees it immediately, but nobody will listen to her. And except for her kindly therapist. Always love when a movie has a kindly therapist. That always makes me happy. So at one point, Shelley and Terry get in a really violent fight about something. I don't remember what it is. And Jill goes to her room and puts on her headphones and plays Run Between the Raindrops. And I always loved that song, but when I first saw the movie, I didn't realize it was a Pat Benatar song. I thought it was another, Beat of the Heart-esque random horror movie song that I'd never be able to access. So I was happy when I found out it was Pat Benatar. And I love that... Pat Benatar, sort of in the way that Katie Irving stands in for Carrie's subjectivity, Pat Benatar sort of communicates Jill Schoelen's life force as this strong, rebellious woman who's not going to put up with this suburban crap. I just love this movie. I haven't seen it in a long time. I should really, I should revisit it. What are your thoughts on the song and the movie?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of The Stepfather. I actually feel bad that I didn't include The Stepfather in my 1987 podcast, but I wanted to keep it to around 10 or a dozen movies, and I left it out. 1987 was sort of the beginning of that From Hell cycle with Fatal Attraction, and I guess with this one you have the Stepfather or the Dad from Hell, whatever you want to call it, and Terry O'Quinn is really good in the film. He's really creepy, and he lets it all hang out in his performance. And I think, if I remember correctly, quite literally. Oh
yeah, that's right. There's a little penis scene.
So it's kind of unlike some of the horror movies at the time because it does. Focus on the characters a bit more than some of the horror, but it's also still very much a slasher movie because he does kill these people who kind of get in his way, and he does it in a realistic way without it becoming too over the top or campy, and I appreciate that. And I love Jill Schoelen. This is the beginning of Jill Schoelen as a scream queen, and I think she's great here. I think it might seem like she's miscast as this girl who's kind of rebellious and gets into all this trouble at school and into fights. I mean, Jill Schoelen doesn't seem like the kind of girl who would be so
so bad.
Right. She's trying to adjust to her life and without a dad, and then with this new guy entering the picture and causing all this trouble. Things will happen and get out of control. This was directed by Joseph Rubin, who made previous to this film Dreamscape, which was kind of big budgets. At least it seemed like it. So it's kind of a very different way to go with his next movie. It wasn't a big film at all. I think it was kind of low budget. It didn't make a big splash at the box office. I think it made around $2 million. So that wasn't that big, especially for a slasher movie in 1987. But it was a huge hit on home video, where a lot of us saw it. I did see it in the theater, and didn't love it as much as I probably did on home video. That's probably why I didn't include it in my 87 list. But when I watched it on home video, I was really into it, and I've rented it a lot, and had a lot of fun each time I saw it. And I'm a big fan of the sequels as well.
And didn't like part 2 so much. I liked part 3, which is funny because most people hate part 3 and like part 2.
I actually prefer part 3 as well.
Oh, that's good to know.
And it doesn't have Tara Quinn in it, which is interesting. What was it, made in the 90s?
Yeah.
A 90s feel to it. So it becomes, instead of kind of completely repeating itself, like the second one sort of did, it kind of becomes a little slightly different. And I like that the lead character in that one uses the computer to play Nancy Drew and find out who his brother is.
I was so into that. He had a scanner, and he had a weird internet thing, and it seemed so exotic and amazing to me at the time.
I know, it's so high tech for so early in the 90s. Loved it. So the series is fun, and it kind of holds up for me, especially the first one. I think it's kind of a classic of the genre, and I like the Pat Benatar song. I like that she listens to Pat Benatar, and like you said, in her room alone and dealing with her problems, and Pat Benatar kind of serves as her voice in a way, and it's a very teenage girl, but in a way that a lot of us can identify with.
Did you know, just one last little tidbit, did you know that Pauline Kael loved this movie?
I didn't.
She never liked any horror movies. I can't think of any horror movies from after, Psycho, that she ever gave a good review to, but she thought The Stepfather was just the bee's knees, which is so her.
All right. So let's move on to my next track. Here it is. And that was Happy Birthday to Me by Sarita from Happy Birthday to Me, the 1981 slasher movie. So just a little while ago, I was talking about how much I love slasher movies from 1981, and here's another one. I am completely bonkers over Happy Birthday to Me. It might sound like much like Melissa Sue Anderson in that movie, I might have head damage or brain trauma for loving such a bizarre, kooky movie like Happy Birthday to Me, but I love it for so many reasons. I'll just go into a few. But Melissa Sue Anderson in the central role always struck a chord with me. I was a Little House on the Prairie fan in the 80s, and having her cast in the middle of this slasher movie was a great choice. And then you have the fact that it's a studio movie. It's a movie released by Columbia, so very prestigious, even though it had a Canadian kind of background. It was produced by the same people who did My Bloody Valentine the same year. Just slasher movies in general are something that always warm my heart, and I think there's a lot of fun death scenes in Happy Birthday to Me that keep me coming back for more. And Glenn Ford as the therapist with his huge collars and his gold chains and open shirt. I thought it was an interesting casting choice. It's kind of a fancy slasher movie in a way. It's a movie that you wouldn't get now. You wouldn't get like classy actors like Glenn Ford in a slasher movie. Even actors who are kind of in the twilight of their career don't seem to want to be in slasher movies anymore. Actually, there aren't even many slasher movies anymore. There's a lot of direct-to-video movies shot on handheld cameras or digital cameras. It's just not the same. There's so many horror movies these days that can be made so cheaply, but can there be a movie made with such production value and like Happy Birthday to Me that can strike a chord with, I don't know, the kids of today? I don't know. The song appears at the end credits, and it kind of serves as a way just to have like a title song, and I love that. I love title songs. I love theme songs, and it's a fun little number. It's kind of a slow song, and it's something I'm not going to listen to every day, but because it's connected to this movie, I don't mind it at all. I'm into it. How about you?
You know, you're going to be shocked by this because Happy Birthday to Me has everything that I could ever love. I love a classy slasher movie. Love it. And I love Melissa Sue Anderson, and I love therapists. But there was something, the first and only time I saw this movie, it didn't really strike a chord. And looking back, I think that's because of two things. One, I saw the first DVD release, which had a weird score that wasn't the real score, and I hear that really takes a lot away from it. And also, I was in college, and I had this tiny, tiny little TV. I think it was like 10 inches. And that's what I saw it on. And I think that really took away from it. So I have the Blu-ray of this movie because I love When a Stranger Calls. And I've been saving it for a special occasion because there are so few classy early 80s slasher movies that I haven't really, that I haven't already seen a million times. So I know I have a feeling I'm going to love it when I see it. But I did even then like the crazy ass ending with her taking off her mask and revealing her to be someone else, and the weird birthday party motif. And I remember the song and found it very, very memorable and very creepy. This to me is one of the creepiest of the early 80s end credits ballads. I think I might find it even creepier than the one at the end of Prom Night, which is saying something.
It definitely fits the vibe later in the movie where things get a little macabre. This movie is so convoluted, but I mean that in the best way possible. Like when it does become literally a scene from Scooby-Doo. Yes. That's when you know a movie has and if you're still with it when it becomes Scooby Doo, and then you know that the movie has done its job, right? So I really hope you do check it out again, and let me know what you think.
Oh, I totally will.
I think a lot of slasher fans who are really into slasher movies kind of hold this one in high regard because it is like we've been saying, a classy movie, but maybe not as sharply written as it could have been.
And I love the combination of like classiness and like tastelessness. That it's really classy, but also has like the most gory, perverted killings. I think that's great.
People get shish kebab to death in this one, people. You have to see it. So that was Happy Birthday to Me. Let's move on to your next track. Here it is.
It's not the way you smile that touch my heart. It's not the way you kiss that tears me apart. Many nights go by. I sit alone at home and cry over you. What can I do? Don't want nobody, 'cause baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. Is it true what they say about you? They say you'll never, ever, never be true. It doesn't matter what they say. I know I'm gonna love you any old way. What can I do without you? Don't want nobody. Baby, it's you. Baby, it's you.
That was Baby It's You from Death Proof. I loved Grindhouse. I thought that it was really fun and really special, and I actually preferred Death Proof to Planet Terror, which is surprising because I think in general I prefer the Planet Terror had kind of a weird John Carpenter early 80s ever so slightly Halloween 3 quality to it, and those are all my favorite things, whereas Death Proof was based on like Vanishing Point and road movies, but it also combined with the slasher movie, and that I'm often less drawn to like the road movie exploitation subgenre, but I much prefer Death Proof. I I adored Death Proof. And the things that some people at the time didn't like about it are the things that I love. Like, I remember that people said, oh, Quentin Tarantino just takes this exploitation subgenre and makes it into a Quentin Tarantino movie because it has so much dialogue. But I actually thought that was brilliant, because what I love about so many of the kind of low-budget 70s grindhouse exploitation movies is that they have wildly uneven pacing. So there will be a great set piece somewhere in there, but there will also be just random dialogue that has nothing to do with anything and is kind of boring. So in one sense, that is very Quentin Tarantino-y, but in another sense, Quentin Tarantino's movies are like that because he was influenced by those movies to begin with. And I love that the dialogue is so sparkling, because, you know, in the exploitation films during those long dialogue stretches, you don't usually get sparkling dialogue, charismatic actresses. And the use of, there are two moments in the film that use music that I love, because they also remind me of the great 70s movies that had random songs in them that somehow conveyed profound emotion, even though they were on one level inappropriate in the movie. And one is the scene where the girl gets a text message from her boyfriend, I think, and it samples the slow music from Blow Up. I thought that was just brilliant. And I am a Quentin Tarantino nerd. Like, in some ways, he annoys me as a person, but I love all of his movies, except I did love Django Unchained, actually, but I love all of the other ones. And only he could make a text message seem lyrical and beautiful and romantic and give it that early 80s feel that I miss so much. And then, of course, there's the Baby It's You, where one girl just drunkenly, randomly dances to this unbelievably great cover of the Shirelles song. It's just so good. And I know that the cover by Smith had a comeback because of this movie, and the band kind of had a comeback, and I'm happy about that. I did track down their album, and there are some incredible songs. There's a great version of Tell Her No by the Zombies, but some of the songs aren't quite as good as Baby It's You. But it's like one of those things where Baby It's You is so powerful and so great, and her voice is so amazing that like, how can you expect anything to live up to it? So the inclusion of this song, and just that the movie has this random scene where a girl just dances before a horrible, violent car crash and all the crazy action, it captures the essence of what I love about exploitation movies. And so this song is why I love Death Proof. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I am a huge fan of Death Proof. I actually much prefer it over Planet Terror, which I thought was fun and started out as like a loving homage to John Carpenter, like you mentioned. But then it gets kind of super silly and very effects heavy and very squishy. And I remember a lot of like gooey things. Mm-hmm. So it kind of loses me a bit. But I'm kind of glad they had such different movies as a double feature, because often movies are double featured together that are very similar. So you're getting kind of almost the same experience twice. So with Death Proof, you kind of get two different exploitation sides. You get the very 70s feeling with Death Proof, and you get the very 80s kind of effects heavy side with Planet Terror. So that's kind of fun that they're paired together. But honestly, I don't go back to Planet Terror all that often. I do go back to Death Proof much more often. I think it's much more satisfying as a movie, even as a standalone movie. And I love the characters, and I really like Quentin Tarantino, and the dialogue that he has in some of these scenes I think is a lot of fun to listen to and fun to watch. Not everyone can pull off like some of the talkiness of a movie and seem completely boring, but he does it in a way that's very entertaining, because he often mixes in great music in his movies, and this scene, which really utilizes that Smith song so well, really makes you fall in love with the characters, especially for dancing along to it and just really just appreciating music. Quentin Tarantino, in addition to being a diehard movie fan who collects movie prints and owns the New Beverly in LA and just loves movies so much, is a big fan of music and a big collector of music. So he digs up a lot of this great music, and there's a lot of it in this movie. And I do especially like the Smith track. I think I looked up a live performance of Smith singing the song, and just watching her singing, it was so much fun because she's kind of still and quiet, but she just lets her voice kind of tell the story, and it's really dynamic to watch, even as just a person just singing into a microphone. And it's such a great song, a powerful song, and it's used really, really well in the film. Death Proof, I think, started off as Quentin Tarantino's bit at doing a slasher movie, but I think it's unfair to label it as a slasher movie because it's not really. It becomes its own thing, and as often he does with his movies. They started off as homages to like blaxploitation films of Jackie Brown and gangster films and so on, but then they kind of become something else, and I appreciate that because sometimes I'm not exactly sure where things are going, and that's exactly how I felt while watching Death Proof, when characters suddenly die off and then switches to a whole new set of characters. For example, I was totally surprised by that, and just the nerve to go there, and then immediately enjoy the new set of characters. That's a big feat to pull off, and he does it really well. And I absolutely love revenge movies, and Death Proof becomes a revenge movie, and by the end of the movie I was totally exhilarated, and I thank him for that and the great music choices. Okay, so we're moving on to my next track. Here it is.
Mother, I see the wonders of the day. Millions of people left like clay. Millions of whispers saying, I'm dying. Mother, I see the wonders of the day. Millions of people left like clay. Millions of whispers saying, I'm dying. I see the earth move under my feet. The giant killers made of concrete. I shout I'm happy and I'm lying. Desperation, understanding, destination isn't ending. Desperation, understanding, destination isn't ending. Get the sword, 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 get the sword. Truth was born in 1,000 meanings, and I was made from evil spinnings. Why Jesus said, look, I'm flying. There is a pocket in my hole to save the raindrops for the fall. That means I'm rich 'cause I'm crying. Desperation, understanding, destination isn't ending. Desperation, understanding, destination isn't ending. Get the sword, 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 get the sword.
All right, so that was Destination from the Island of Death soundtrack from 1975. Now, this movie, I'm not sure how many of you guys have seen it out there, but the ones who have seen it will remember it forever. It's a completely crazy exploitation movie, horror exploitation movie from the mid-70s that you may not be able to unsee ever. There's a lot of sleaziness in the movie. The movie might be pretty offensive. I still haven't decided if it's pretty offensive or not, because it's essentially about a couple who go to the island of Mykonos in Greece and start killing people off who they find, or at least the husband finds is morally bankrupt or just doesn't approve of their lifestyles. And meanwhile, the couple are sleazy and killers and having sex in phone booths and all kinds of craziness. There's a lot of crazy moments in this movie, and in between these crazy moments are these sometimes pretty songs and sometimes crazy songs. So I had the choice of doing a pretty song or a crazy song. So I went with the crazy one. And while watching the film and having the craziness that's going on the screen, and then having the song about getting the sword and like killing, it's just really weird. It's a really weird soundtrack and a really weird movie. And sometimes I question why I like this movie as much as I do, but I guess it struck a chord with me at a certain time in my life. Maybe when I was in a darker place. It has kind of a crazy ending that has a reveal to it that I won't go into here, and even adds more to the zaniness. I'm pretty sure you haven't seen this one. Did you like the music at least?
Yeah, I did. I did, and I watched like a music video of this song that incorporated it with clips from the movie. And I don't know. Sometimes I can't really get down with the 70s sleaze. I used to be able to, and I was like younger, but for some reason I've just kind of I've gotten more chicken or something. I don't know. Sometimes if it's like really weird and sleazy in 70s like that, it just like it ooks me out too much, so I just kind of avoid it. But I don't know. I'm very curious about this movie based on what I've read about it and what you've told me. And I really like how in the music video it looks kind of like a combination of the Rita Coolidge video for All Time High mixed with like nasty rape and like women getting stabbed between the breasts with sickles and like just horrible things. It feels almost like they were going for a Last House on the Left quality with the very incongruous kind of sappy music. I don't know, but I'm into it. I like the song. I liked how bizarre it all seems.
I think the director who actually wrote the songs as well was definitely going for Last House on the Left vibe. I think he often cites that movie, but also especially Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He wanted to really make a movie that kind of completely shocks you and goes out of its way to shock you. There aren't many movies that feature goat sex, or having weird guys who live in caves hit women over the head and have sex with them, and then their husband. So it's definitely out there. Maybe not.
Wow, it sounds very erotic.
It's probably one of the least erotic movies I've ever seen in my life. There's tons of nudity and sex going on, but it's not at all erotic.
Did this movie have like a major grindhouse run? Because I had never heard of it at all until you told me about it.
You know, honestly, I don't know a lot about its history. Because this movie kind of came to me late. My weirdo roommate introduced it to me in the early 2000s. It was often on bootleg VHS tapes. I don't think it was banned in a lot of countries, I believe. And it was a bootleg VHS tape. Maybe it was the late 90s. And it was called Island of Perversion then. And then eventually some little label put it out on DVD with some of the director's comments on the movie. And Arrow Video in the UK released it out on a special edition DVD, and kind of, I think they cleaned it up a little bit, or it's uncut or something, but it has a very interesting artwork to it. But it's out there, and if you're into exploitation and haven't seen it, you probably should. And if you're not, run the other way. All right, and that was Island of Death. And here is your next track.
This is the very, very sad. Who cares? I'm choosing. I'm always the Debbie Downer when it comes to choosing songs from movies. I was saying that to you the other day. I just love sad movie ballads. I can't help myself. I just want to listen to them all the time. I guess it says something about how sentimental or something and melancholy I can be. So this was Who Cares from The Attic. Oh my god, but I did not know what to expect when I rented The Attic, and I didn't rent it, my friend Eric Weber, who might be listening to this, he gave me his copy. And I was so delighted. I was like, I did not know this was going to be a character study about a librarian with scenes of her walking to this 70s, well I guess it was 1980, so late 70s, early 80s folk music for like 15 minutes out of nowhere. I was like, this is just perfect. I am so obsessed with it. And of course, Carrie Snodgrass, who I love from Diary of a Mad Housewife, was in it. Oh, so great. But I love this song. I think this is another one that really captures the melancholy of the character. Oh, it is so 70s. Like, it really... Was The Attic a movie that was made before 1980 and then just released in 1980 by any chance?
Possible. It doesn't feel 1980, really, like you mentioned, so...
No, it doesn't. But I guess like a movie like Jennifer, which was made in 77 or 78, doesn't really feel like even anywhere near 1980. So it might have just been that thing where 1980 was kind of like kind of like the 70s. But this, like, The Attic feels like the early 70s to me, or the mid 70s. Well, anyway, I don't know. Yeah, I love it. I love this movie. It really gets you into poor Carrie Snodgrass's head. And I think that there should be way more movies about librarians, because I think librarians are really, really interesting people. And I love that her best friend is a monkey, because I can relate to that, since two of my best friends are cats. There have definitely been points in my life when I really related to Carrie Snodgrass's character. And I think the first time that I saw this movie was one of them. I'm sure I was between relationships and mourning the loss of the last one, which she certainly is in this movie, big time. And then, of course, when it does get really gothic at the end, it's so great and so freaky and scary. And I love how the lurid gothicness really does emerge from the 70s character study in a very perfect way. So what are your thoughts on this movie and this song?
I love this movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but going off of memory, I just remember really liking Carrie Snodgrass in the movie, and Ray Milland, who I'm always a huge fan of, and her very tortured relationship with her dad. I could definitely relate to. My grandmother, who raised me, wasn't as bad as Ray Milland in this movie, but she was the kind of person who would sometimes guilt you into things or make you feel guilty for like wanting to have a life for yourself. And so I definitely could empathize with some of her plight and her feelings. I feel really bad for her. I mean, I guess in a way she's like an adult version of Carrie, so maybe that's part of why the movie feels like more mid-70s, like more like 76, 75. And when it came out in 1980, it probably felt a little bit old-fashioned, and it's a bit more stately than some of the other horror movies at the time. But I like that about it. I like that it's again another melodrama / horror movie, and I'm really into that. And I think the song perfectly accompanies her character and what she's going through and how she feels, because I think we've all felt some of that in certain parts of our life, and I think the movie kind of brilliantly captures that. And like you mentioned, I love that the monkey is her friend. Not many horror movies that have monkey characters. I guess, what is their Phenomena? And,
I actually wrote an article for Chiller TV about 13 horror movies with monkeys. So there are quite a few. There's one with Elizabeth Shue called Link or something.
Yes, I love that one.
And there's Shakma. There were 13 of them. I found them. I was very proud of myself. But yeah, it doesn't feel like there are that many.
I love that you have a list like that. That is really cool.
You never know when you're going to need it.
That's right. I'm really bummed that Carrie passed away. I feel like she was due for sort of a comeback, or I like that she popped up in occasional movies in small roles. I remember her in the late 90s popping up in Wild Things, that sleazy thriller.
No way! Who did she play in Wild Things?
I want to say she's like a mom. I know she's maybe kind of white trashy character in the movie.
She might have been Nev Campbell's mother.
Maybe. I definitely remember her popping up in a scene. I think the movie's set in Florida.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of white trashy people there, and her character kind of shows up. It's so much fun, that movie.
She was also in a really good Friday the 13th, the series episode called Brain Zone or something, where she played a scientist. So worth looking out for.
Oh, really? I should check that one out. I'm sure I think I've seen most of those, but I want to revisit some of them. Of course, Carrie Snodgrass was in a Brian De Palma film.
Oh, right.
In The Fury. And she has some fun scenes. She spends a lot of the screen time with Kirk Douglas. I think they have a love scene together, which is weird to see. it was weird to see Kirk Douglas in a love scene. I don't think of him. I always think of him as an older man. But
Well, he kind of was. I mean, I think he must have been older than her in that movie. Although he was pretty studly in that movie still.
He was.
Is Carrie Snodgrass the one in The Fury? That's probably the Brian De Palma movie I've seen the least, where Andrew Stevens like makes her spin to death.
Does she spin to death? I don't remember her spinning to death for some reason, but I remember her getting hit by a car.
Oh, she's the one who gets hit by a car. Okay.
Yeah, I remember being kind of
some woman spins to death in that movie. John Cassavetes, the co-woman.
Right. I can't remember if it's her or not, but she definitely gets hit by a car. I remember that part.
I think it's not her, yeah. But I do like her in that movie. She always because she always communicates a lot of sensitivity.
She does immediately. I guess she's one of those actors who has very empathetic face and eyes, expressive eyes. I like her and miss her. And
this is off topic, but what were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you know why Diary of a Mad Housewife has never been available on DVD or Blu-ray? Is there some weird music thing going on, or are people just being lazy?
I think who owns that one? I think it's like Universal or something. And they
I think that's
don't care about their catalog at all. So it's maybe just a case of someone having to convince them to let it go. I don't think they often do. I just think they hold on to their stuff.
They need to do like the feminism box set with that, Play It As It Lays, and Moment by Moment.
I would watch that. I'd buy that. So anyone listening and is into feminism and good 70s movies, get on that. Maybe Olive Films.
Yeah, that sounds good. And somebody just released The Swimmer, another Frank Perry movie. Who was it? Scorpion? So I don't think The Swimmer was owned by Universal, but maybe they could get Frank Perry's estate to do something. I don't know.
Right, because The Swimmer was originally through Columbia. I think they're a lot easier. I'm gonna say easier, but they're more accessible to getting the rights to their titles. So whoever did that, good for them. And I like that movie a lot. I love a Frank Perry box set too. While they're at it.
Yes,
and quite a few others. Compromising positions. Who directed The Attic? I don't remember who directed that one.
I don't know.
Let's look it up. George Edwards. I'm not familiar with George Edwards. Oh, he did. Did he direct Ruby? No, this is his only credit as a director.
That's terrible.
He was a producer who produced Frogs and The Killing Kind and Ruby, movies I liked.
Okay.
And he also wrote The Attic and Harper Valley PTA.
I like that movie.
Pretty popular. Sadly, this was his only feature film as a director.
Ruby and The Attic would be an interesting double feature.
They would, yeah. Have you ever seen The Killing Kind?
No.
That's an interesting movie. It's like one of those kind of psycho riffs about a crazy man and his mother movies. But I think it's one of the better ones. Directed by Curtis Harrington.
Great.
Checking out. And John Savage plays the crazy man. And Anne Southern was his mom.
Yeah, I do need to check that out. I've always heard it's one of the greatest TV movies, and I think Curtis Harrington is one of the most underrated filmmakers. So yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
All right, so that was that. Let's move on to my next track.
When does a dream become a nightmare? When do we do what must be done? When do we stand and face the future? When there is nowhere left to run? And you got to learn just how to survive. You got to learn how to keep your dream alive. Take a look at my face. I am the future.
does a dream become a nightmare? When do we learn to live with fear? When we cry out for some salvation, why is it no one seems to hear? You got to learn, it's up to you. If you can learn that the dream just might come true. Take a look at my face, I am the future. How do you like what you see? Take a look at my face, I belong to the future. The world belongs to me. Take a look at my face, I am the future. Now, how do you like what you see? Take a look at my face, I belong to the future. And the world, it belongs to me. It belongs to me. It's all mine. Just take a look at my face. I'm the future, no disgrace. Take a look at my face. This world belongs to me. And me. No room for you. Whoa, all mine.
Okay, so that was I Am the Future by Alice Cooper from the Class of 1984 soundtrack. And the song came off the Zipper Catches Skin album from '82, and it was written by Lalo Schifrin, who was kind of famous for the Mission Impossible theme song and being a great composer and had a lot of great soundtracks. My favorite of being the Amityville Horror.
That's right. I was thinking
I love
he did
that.
something I love.
And he also did the Amityville 2, I think, and The Seduction, and quite a few movies. But the song itself is a great match for this movie, this exploitation horror classic that came out in '82. It's, I guess, a revenge movie, or it becomes a revenge movie, and I'm a big fan of those, and I love that it's set in high school in the 80s. I know high school in the 80s in certain areas were pretty bad, but this movie was very reactionary, and these kids were really, really terrible. And I couldn't imagine high school was bad for me. It wasn't the greatest experience. It wasn't what I thought it would be, but it wasn't anywhere near as bad as it was in Class of 1984. I didn't have classmates like Michael J. Fox, who ended up dead, or other kids that would end up flagpole, high on drugs, or kids going after teachers and raping their wives, and then having to settle the score in shop class. This movie fully utilizes the high school setting, and when the revenge does kick in later in the film, it's really used well. And I love when movies are set in high school generally, and I think this is a great movie set in a high school. It also has Roddy McDowall in the film, who I'm a big fan of. I love Roddy McDowall. I mentioned Lord Leverduck earlier, and he was the star of that film. And of course, he's famous for many things like Fright Night, the Planet of the Apes films, and on and on. So he gets a great little role here as a kind of a distraught teacher who gets pushed way too far by these kids after they kill all of his animals. I believe he's a science teacher. I remember feeling lots of empathy for his character, and when he does turn the tables on them, I was really with him, and sadly he doesn't make it, which really, really bummed me out, because I really wanted him to get these kids. But I guess it gives Perry King more reason for revenge, finally. I love that the lead character, who is a punk, essentially, I guess this movie makes punks seem pretty bad. He's also a preppy kid who is a rich kid who just chooses to live that punk lifestyle and just want to wreak havoc. And he's really smart and talented, can really play the piano, and
they always can in movies,
right? Like much like James Spader in Tough Turf, who's so tough and doesn't take any crap, but also has a time for a love ballad in the middle of a movie. I love Tough Turf. Can't wait to talk about that movie. But Class of 1984 and having an Alice Cooper track, I think, is pure 80s movie perfection. I love this movie when it came out on VHS. I didn't see it theatrically. It was a big hit when it came out. It made like $20 million and on a $250,000 budget. So that's a pretty big hit. Surprised they didn't try. Oh, they did sequelize it later on in the late 80s, early 90s, but kind of in name only, I think. It became kind of like science fiction-ish, if I remember correctly. And it was like a completely different thing. It was directed by Mark L. Lester, who I really like. He did Roller Boogie, a movie we discussed on the very first episode, dance movies. And he did Commando, probably my favorite Schwarzenegger movie. Super silly, but fun. So what are your thoughts on Class of 84 and the song?
I love the song. This is another movie I haven't seen. I feel really remiss today. There are a bunch of these that I have not seen. I hope I'm able to. I hope that all you people out there think I'm holding my own anyway with my thoughts based on the clips that I've watched. I didn't know a bunch of animals get killed in this movie. That's hard for me. I could watch people get chainsawed and murdered and decapitated until the cows come home, but you kill one animal in a movie and I'm like, that's not okay, which is really hypocritical of me, but it's okay. Yeah, but I love the song. I love Alice Cooper, and watching the stuff from the movie on YouTube. I really wanted to see the whole thing because as I said before recently on Facebook, I'm in a very big early '80s seedy LA exploitation hole right now. So I've been watching Savage Streets and Vice Squad and The Boys Next Door, and this seems like a natural next thing to watch, even if I'm going to have to close my eyes when they kill poor Roddy McDowell's pets. And really, killing a gay man's animals, that's just the most unacceptable, even though, maybe the character isn't. Roddy was. So yeah, I remember when the sequel came out, actually. It played in Albany for a day, and I wanted to see it, and then it was gone, and I was like, oh, what's that? What happened? But I'm kind of surprised that it played in Albany at all.
Yeah, I think you should totally see this movie. I know it has a big cult audience and a lot of fans, and rightfully so after all these years. I know I worn out my Vestron VHS tape in the 80s. I'm so glad that Anchor Bay released it on DVD and hopefully on Blu-ray. But I want you to see it and report back because I think you'll like it. I know the animal death scene is hard to take, but I am pretty sure no animals were actually harmed in the making of this one. It just serves as, I guess, a strong plot point in the movie.
At least it wasn't real animals being killed. I've actually stopped being able to watch cannibal movies because of that. I just that really is the worst to me. At least fake animals being killed, that I can deal with more.
Yeah, I could totally deal with that. I know the first Friday the 13th film, there was a snake in that movie. They actually killed a snake, which is kind of sad. I'm Right. I guess because this is an exploitation movie, very much an exploitation movie of the 80s, it does up the factor with killing cute animals, which is sad. But I assure you, those kids will pay, and they pay.
Right.
Perry King shows them who's boss.
And I have a big crush on Perry King, too, so I always like to see his movies.
Lisa Langlois was she was the punk girl in that movie. I believe she was also in Happy Birthday to Me, one of the girls in that movie. So there's a connection there. It's also a Canadian movie. It was shot in Canada, or at least with some American actors. That's why Michael J. Fox pops up, because he was a Canadian actor at the time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But fun stuff. Check it out. And thank you, Alice Cooper, for such a memorable song. And here is your next track.
That was something that I hope would spawn a lot of happy memories for some of you. It was the theme song from Sorority Babes and the Slime Ball Bolorama, and I was really happy to be able to find such a high-quality version on YouTube. I was a huge fan of made-for-video movies of the late 80s and early 90s. I love, because I was a major USA Up All Night aficionado. That program really informed my sensibility as a moviegoer and my sense of humor and just the way I think and am. And a lot of what USA Up All Night would show were these late 80s Scream Queen movies with Linnea Quigley, who was my absolute favorite, Ginger Lynn Allen, Michelle Bauer, Brinke Stevens. And I really liked a lot of them. And Sorority Babes and the Slime Ball Bolorama was absolutely one of my favorites. It had everything. I was shocked when it came out because there was a lot of full frontal nudity. And I was not used to seeing that. And I just couldn't believe all these scenes of naked women full frontal in the showers. I was scandalized, and I loved being scandalized. And this is one of... I'll give you a short plot summary. It's about a bunch of fraternity brothers and sisters who, as a hazing ritual, are forced to go to an abandoned bowling alley and steal a trophy. And the bowling alley's in a mall, which is really important. And they unleash an evil little imp from the trophy who grants them 3 wishes, but then turns the wishes against them and avenges them. And Linnea Quigley plays a petty thief who's robbing the bowling alley named Spider, which to this day I think is a really great name. If I hadn't named my cat Stevie. I think I would have liked to name her Spider because she looks and acts like Linnea Quigley in this movie. And she's super punk and goth and badass and great. And she wears, I don't know if any of you out there have noticed this, but in all of her 80s and 90s movies, Linnea Quigley wears the same belt. No matter, it's very distinctive. It must be her good luck belt or something. And she wears the belt in this movie. And I always looked for it, so I was happy to see it. The imp is very funny, and then the big plot twist is that the evil sorority head sisters break into the mall to terrorize the pledges, and of course that goes awry. And it's just this movie is everything that's great to me about the late 80s, early 90s made-for-video movies. It's very, very fun. Lots of 80s glamour, a lot of like lightning bolt special effects. Just homages to Bride of Frankenstein. It has everything that you could ever want. There's great abandoned mall footage, great bowling alley footage, and when this song started, when I first rented the video, and I remember the video had a hot pink label, which I was immediately very excited about. And the minute this song started, it just gets you into it. I was like, yes, like this is like 80s bliss. And that's often, a lot of these movies had songs like this at the beginning, and they just made you know you were going to have a really good time. The credits were hot pink too. Hot pink was very big at that time, if you remember. And I always loved any movie with hot pink credits. So this song just exemplifies for me what I love about that time. It makes me feel very nostalgic. And it was another song that I always wished I could have the tape single of, but I knew I couldn't, so I was happy. I'm happy to have it now. What about you, Michael?
I feel kind of bad. There's another movie that I've seen, but I haven't seen in such a long time that I barely remember. I remember renting it when it came out and enjoying it. And liking the actresses in the movie. I was like Linnea Quigley and everything she's in, and some of the other actresses like Michelle Bauer and a few others. But I don't have a huge memory of what I liked about it. Other than that, I like that it's a take on the monkey's paw, and it goes in very 80s territory. I'm always a big fan of that. I love that you pointed out the hot pink neon, because that's definitely something that will draw me near to an 80s movie. I will admit to being slightly a snob of these kinds of movies when they came out. So I know there were a lot of movies being made for the home video market around this time period, and I wasn't checking them out as much. I was trying to see a lot of things theatrically and catching up on like older catalog titles that I hadn't seen, and so I wasn't checking out a lot of the direct-to-video stuff as much. So there's kind of a gap in my knowledge on films of this era, and I think the director David D. Cotu directed quite a few of them, if not most of them. Looking at some of his credits online, he has made so many of these movies. I remember one of his movies that I really liked at the time period was Dr. Alien. Have you seen that one?
I haven't, no.
That had one of the Landers sisters. I want to say Judy Landers. And
love that.
Yeah, I love her too. And it's kind of like a teen sex comedy. And the main actor was Buddy from Just One of the Guys. So that's what drew me to that movie, was that he was in that one. And I might have seen a couple of others from that director. I remember definitely seeing this movie, but I just not really making as big of an impression on me, which is just sad. But I really like the song. I think it's a lot of fun and very 80s and late 80s, and immediately reminds me of that time, and especially being at the video store and seeing all these fun covers for movies, and that always makes me happy. Okay, so let's move on to my next track, and here it is.
Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit lonely and you're never coming around. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of listening to the sound of my tears.
Turn around.
Every now and then I get a little bit nervous that the best of all the years have gone by.
Turn around.
Every now and then I get a little bit terrified, and then I see the look in your eyes.
Turn around, bright eyes.
Every now and then I fall apart.
Turn around, bright eyes.
Every now and then I fall apart, and I need you now tonight, and I need you more than ever. And if you only hold me tight, we'll be holding on forever, and we'll only be making it right, 'cause we'll never be wrong. Together we can take it to the end of the line. The love is like a shadow on me all of the time. I don't know what to do, and I'm always in the dark. We're living in a powder keg and giving off balls. I really need you tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Upon a time I was falling in love, but now I'm only falling apart. There's nothing I can do, a total eclipse of the heart. Once upon a time there was light in my life, but now there's only love in the dark. Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart. Every now and then I fall apart. Every now and then I fall apart, and I need you now tonight, and I need you more than ever. And if you only hold me tight, we'll be holding on forever, and we'll only be making it right, 'cause we'll never be wrong. Together we can take it to the end of the line. Love is like a shadow on me all of the time. I don't know what to do, I'm always in the dark. We're living in a powder keg and giving off sparks. I really need you tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Once upon a time I was falling in love, but now I'm only falling apart. Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart. A total eclipse of the heart. A total eclipse of the heart. Turn around, bright eyes.
And that was Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler from the Urban Legend soundtrack from 1998. Now, of course, this song was a big pop hit way before Urban Legend came around in 1998, but that's exactly why I like this song, especially used in this movie. It's used during the opening set piece where the killer is in the back seat, and he kind of axe swings at the person in the car who's singing along to the song, and it perfectly matches the lyrics of the song. It's like a silly, I guess, song, but and ballad, I guess. Maybe something that I didn't fully appreciate when it came out. you might have been more aware of the song than I was before the movie came out, at least.
Yeah, I think I definitely was. This is one of my very, very, very favorite songs. I love this version. I also love the cheesy Nicki French version from the mid-90s, which kind of gave the song a comeback and might be one of the reasons that it ended up in Urban Legend. I listen to the song at least 2 or 3 times a week, probably, which is maybe embarrassing to admit. But I love Bonnie Tyler, and I don't know. I never get sick of it.
I remember getting some play in our house and listening and enjoying it. I know it had it was heavy. There was a lot of heavy rotation on MTV and on the radio, especially in New York. But maybe I didn't appreciate it as much. I'm sorry. But when it came around in the film, and like a lot of people, I guess it was used in a sort of a semi-ironic way, or as a wink to the audience. I just fell in love. I thought it was so much fun, and there it is.
I loved this movie actually when it came out. I thought that it was one of this might have been my favorite of all of the post-Scream, postmodern slasher movies. I thought it was the most fun, the least tired. I remember liking the cast a lot and finding the cast very engaging. The girl from Sybil was on it, the redhead, right? And I liked Rebecca Gayheart, who kind of had her little comeback in Jawbreaker, I think the year before. And yeah, I thought it was, and the movie had a kind of fun sense of pop culture history, recent pop culture history. I liked that the song was in it, Robert Englund had his little cameo. I liked that there was the security guard who was obsessed with coffee, and I was going through a major Pam Grier phase when this movie came out, so I was so excited to see coffee referenced in a movie. Because actually Foxy Brown was the one people were talking about then, because there was the rapper Foxy Brown, and then Jackie Brown came out. But Coffee was always my favorite. I thought that Coffee was much more powerful. I like them both, but Coffee is, to me, just the top of Pam Grier's exploitation oeuvre. And yeah, I thought having the song combined with an axe murderer, that was really a great way to kick it off for me. So I am very, very fond of this film.
A very improbable axe murder too, since the killer is essentially swinging an axe from the backseat of a car.
That seems like it'd be hard.
That'd be really hard. Yeah.
Have you seen the it's like the Total Eclipse of the Heart video with real lyrics, like what the lyrics that actually match the video would have been?
No.
It sounds like it could be obnoxious, but it's very, very funny. I'll email it to you.
Yeah, I want to see that. I like that they synced it up so well in the movie.
Did you like this movie? Were you a fan of Urban Legend?
I hated it. Actually, no, It's not true at all. Like you, absolutely, I think it's like the best of the post-Scream stuff. And I probably like it than any of the other Scream sequels. And I liked and enjoyed I Know What You Did Last Summer and a few of the others, but I really seem to go back to Urban Legend more than the others. I think, like you said, it has it's very aware of all the pop culture stuff, and it's having a lot of fun with it, but it's not doing it in an obnoxious way. Like
you don't get the feeling of superiority in Urban Legend that you did from some of the other ones. Like, it doesn't feel like it's better than the slasher movie genre. Right.
I think the filmmaker clearly likes horror movies and enjoys those horror movies, and he's just adding kind of a fun with it, with a wink to the audience with certain things. And I know that bothers some people who are purists of horror movies and want horror movies to be a bit more serious and not as silly, but I absolutely love serious horror movies, and clearly with some of the movies that we pick in our podcast, we do like those movies, but I also like the silly ones like Urban Legend. I think Urban Legend is kind of glossy and in that Lost Boys kind of way. It's made really well, and there are a lot of fun camera techniques and angles, and Jamie Blanks went on to do a couple of other horror movies in that genre. He did Valentine, which another movie that I liked and thought was a bit underappreciated. That was kind of the end of the cycle slasher of the late 90s, early 2000s, it was kind of a bomb. So kind of put that to bed for a bit until it was revived a bit later. And he did a movie called Long Weekend, an Australian, kind of a remake of an Australian film, which I thought worked. And I like both the original and the remake to that movie for some reason. And he also did, he does music for summer movies. And interestingly, he did the music for those documentaries, like the Machete Maidens Unleashed documentary. And he recently did the music for that documentary on Canon Films. Which
that's nice.
See. So he's like clearly in love with making films and music, and I thought he'd be a good choice for my pick here on the podcast because he used a song so well in a horror movie, a fun pop song. Going back to Urban Legend, just wanted to point out that originally Sarah Michelle Gellar was cast in the movie but had to drop out because of doing Buffy, and she was the Tara Reid role. And I hate Tara Reid.
I don't even have any knowledge of her. Like, I think Tara Reid, and I just see like blankness. Like, I don't remember what she looks like. I don't remember what movies I've seen her in. I just know people are always bitching about her.
Yeah, I guess feel like she's one of those kind of non-actors who seems to get roles based on like her shocking behavior sometimes, and just being loud and obnoxious. And in the movie, she plays, I guess, a sex radio talk show host. And I think maybe in the end, she's much more believable as being a slut, because she's kind of slutty, her character, than maybe Sarah Michelle Gellar. So who knows? Maybe the casting worked out. But I like the young cast of that movie. I think Natasha Gregson Wagner, who was in the opening sequence with the axe murder, I thought she was really cute. And I'll be controversial by saying that I thought she was cuter than the similar opening sequence in Scream with Drew Barrymore. Because I think I was a bit distracted by Drew Barrymore's wig.
Yeah, Drew Barrymore's wig in Scream is pretty intense.
Yeah. I didn't know any girls back in around 95, 96 who wore their hair quite like that.
No.
But I thought Natasha was really cute, and she's the daughter of Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So she has pretty good genes.
Yeah. I think I like the sequel to this movie too. I have a vague memory of even seeing it. It's like, I think Hart Bachner plays the professor that Robert Englund played in the first one, which I loved anytime he's in a movie. But I just have a vague memory that I saw it in the theater and thought it was okay.
I did see it and thought it was okay as well. And then I saw it like a year ago. Me and my wife kind of stayed up really late one night. And this is after having like a kid who was already pretty bad with his sleep, and he was about a year old back then. So we stayed really late, knowing that he would be up in a few hours. And we watched Urban Legends Final Cut. And after it was over, we were like, "Why did we stay up for that?" It just did not hold up. I think it was fun that it was set in film class. But then it was distracting because these kids who were making these movies seemed to have these really crazy high budgets, and they had like a plane to shoot a movie on, like a half of a plane. It was just kind of like there was no sense of reality with actual. I mean, you should know with being at UCLA, it was just kind of ridiculous. It's like how. I think for my wife, because she worked in magazines then, she's like how the magazine world is made to look so glamorous in TV shows and movies, like in like Devil's Wears Prada and a few other things, but in the reality isn't anywhere near as glamorous. And I think Urban Legends Final Cut makes making movies and film school seems so like amazing, and then having all the murders on top of it, which is kind of super silly, and just, I don't know, some of the murders too in that movie didn't leave an impact on me. I just thought it had one really good set piece with that Australian actress who I think was on The Real World, and then she was suddenly an actress. She had a really good scene where her kidney gets stolen, and then she's murdered in a bathroom.
Yes, I remember that. That's right. That was a big thing then.
Right.
Going to a party and getting your kidney stolen.
And that was a really, really good set piece, and I thought that was like what the whole movie should have been like, but didn't end up being. Maybe if Jamie Blanks had directed the sequel, that would have been more fun. But I think the sequel was actually directed by someone who also does music for movies as well. So there's a weird connection there.
Yeah, that's so unusual, I think. Maybe it's not. That's kind of cool, though. I don't know, I like that. I think I just want people to do music for movies to get more attention than they do.
And that was my pick. So let's move on to your final pick. Here it is.
Sail away, tiny sparrow. Spread your wings and fly to the sun. Catch the wind, don't let your heart belong to anyone. Sail away from all sadness and sorrow. Sail away. All your friends have said your love was made in heaven. Well, the last few years have been a living hell. When all the tears have dried and you have tried to find a way, but there ain't no way as far as you can tell. Run and sail away, tiny sparrow. Spread your wings and fly to the sun. Catch the wind, don't let your heart belong to anyone. Sail away from all sadness and sorrow. Sail away. Awaken yourself, life for freedom. Find the feelings that you're always dreaming of. Try with all your might to see the light within your heart. You know that you're the one you've got to learn to love. Go on and sail away, tiny sparrow. Spread your wings and fly to the sun. Catch the wind, don't let your heart belong to anyone. Sail away from all sadness and sorrow. Sail away. Go on and sail away, tiny sparrow. Spread your wings and fly to the sun. Catch the wind, don't let your heart.
I thought that Sail Away, Little Sparrow was a good final song to kind of, say goodbye to all of you with for now, because it is the final, the instrumental version is the final song at the end of Friday the 13th before Alice encounters Jason for the first time, but it's just a wistful last little song. This is a song that I was obsessed with for a really long time, and it was totally unavailable as far as I know until like last year, when I guess they released like a Friday the 13th box set of music, of all the music from the movies, and this was on it, and I was so thrilled. Although the version on the CD, I guess, is, if you go to YouTube, there are several different versions, and some of them sound like they're sung by a man, but actually I guess it's just that the tempo was slowed down, so somebody sped up the tempo and it sounds more like the woman from the movie. I don't know. But this song always, to me, lent a definite air of creepiness and sadness to the original Friday the 13th. I can't put a finger on it why, but it made me feel a little bit uneasy, even though I loved it. I love that it's the only song playing on the radio in Crystal Lake. Like, everybody in Crystal Lake is just obsessed with listening to this song. And I was always just fascinated with the kind of the town around Camp Crystal Lake, like the luncheonette with all the like kind of creepy, unfriendly patrons who seem to just live at the luncheonette, and then the sad, lonely diner with the fabulous waitress with the crazy big glasses and the curly red hair who's flirting with gay Steve Christie, and that kind of is a weird David Lynchy quality too. I don't know. So those two scenes where this song is playing always really, really stood out to me, and this song and those scenes give for the original Friday the 13th a tone. They contribute to its tone that's very lacking in all the rest of them. The rest of the movies have qualities that are also wonderful and unique that the original doesn't have, but there's something missing that these scenes exemplify to me. And I love this song. This is another one that, because it was so hard to find for so many years, I think I might valorize it more than maybe other people, but I could listen to it all the time because it's very much a smooth groove. It's very much, I read that originally when the movie was being filmed, they played the Dolly Parton song Bluebird on the radios, but then they couldn't get the rights to it, so they just wanted to come up with a song that was similar. So it's very of that AM radio moment, and I just think it's great. And I love the synthesizer symphonic version at the end when Alice is on the water too. So I'm dying to know what your thoughts are on this song.
It's a song I didn't think about for a long time. I didn't really connect the song for some reason with this movie. But after, I think when I was watching it more often, like when the Crystal Lake Memories, not Crystal Lake Memories, but from Crystal Lake to Manhattan box set on DVD came out, I felt like I was watching Friday the 13th movies all the time because they were all in one box set, and there they were all together. And I always started with the first one and just went into them with that order for some reason. And absolutely, like you mentioned, the first one has stuff that the other ones are lacking in. And I think it's atmosphere. They have a sense of the environment they're in. A lot of them are set in the woods. And I think by the time the sequels roll around, they let the audience, I guess, they take for granted that they're just set in Crystal Lake, and rather than give Crystal Lake its own personality, just like being in the woods. But the first one kind of gives Crystal Lake kind of sets it up as a real place with a town and like you said, weird people, and the waitress who kind of, I hate to say this, but looks a bit like a man.
Yeah, well, she's a little bit like Dorothy Pickles and Tootsie.
Yeah, exactly. I love their flirting, both her and Steve Christie. It's a funny scene. I always wished Mrs. Voorhees kind of showed up in that scene. I like to think that Mrs. Voorhees was sitting at the diner and overhearing some of that conversation. Maybe
she totally had a meal at that diner at some point during the killing spree.
She did. She must have. She needed to.
You have to eat, refuel. Right?
Exactly. And where else are you gonna go? It's the only diner in town. I love the first Friday the 13th. I love most of the Friday the 13ths, but especially the first four. And the first one is the one that started it all. And absolutely, in the music, Harry Manfredi's score is very iconic for a good reason. It really sets up a tone and gives, like the Halloween film, it really adds to the film. The score really greatly adds to the atmosphere, and the song which, like you said, was used in a couple of places, or several places, really works. And I like that they used it at the end when you're given that false sense of security before the last shock, and then Alice gets her final scare. It's a great film, and I'm so happy that we covered a Nightmare on Elm Street song, a Halloween song, and a Friday the 13th song. So
yes.
So, any other thoughts on the film?
I feel like I do and I should, but I think I don't at the moment. I'll leave it here. I'd love to know what you listeners out there think about all these songs, because I don't know, people don't talk about horror movie songs enough, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So please email us on Facebook and Twitter and tell us, your favorite horror songs or what your thoughts about these songs are.
That's right. When the show airs, I'll post on Facebook on Retro Movie Love Podcast Facebook page and ask you guys what you love horror song wise, and what are some of your favorites from this list. Love to know. And you can reach us, like I said, on Facebook, Retro Movie Love Podcast, and on Twitter we have Retro Movie Love Podcast. It's on Twitter, and you can find the show on iTunes and Stitcher. So there's plenty of places you can reach out to us, and on Cinema to Meep. And you could read Ben Scher's blog at isaacbenscher.blogspot.com.
Oh, I think that's right, yeah. I should know that, right? And you should also look for my my articles on Chiller TV. I've been taking a little break for the last few weeks, but they're going to be coming back. So keep an eye out for those.
I love those articles. I urge you all to check them out. And so I'm going to leave the podcast with a song that's not really a song from a horror movie. I think it's kind of fun and kind of scary in its own way. Here it is.
One morning when I was out shopping, though you'll find it hard to believe, a little blue man came out of the crowd and timidly tugged at my sleeve.
I love you,
said the little blue man.
I love you to bits. I love you.
He loved me, said the little blue man, and scared me right out of my wits. I hurried back to my apartment. I rushed in and I closed the door. But there on the desk stood the little blue man, who started to tell me once more.
I love you,
said the little blue man.
I love you to bits. I love you.
He loved me, said the little blue man, and scared me right out of my wits. For weeks after that I was haunted, though no one could see him but me. Right by my side was the little blue man, wherever I happened to be.
I love you.
One evening in wild desperation, I rushed to a rooftop in town, and over the side pushed the little blue man, who sang to me all the way down.
I love you,
said the little blue man.
I love you to bits. I love you.
He loved me, said the little blue man, and scared me right out of my wits. I whispered, thank goodness that's over. I smiled as I hurried outside, but there on the street stood the little blue man, who said with a tear in his eye,
I don't love you anymore.
Ba-da, ba-ba-da, ba-da, ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da.
Mikey and I like it in the car.
I see a vision. Me. In your car. Going home. Just some more psychic humor. Come on, Brandy, let's hit the musty dusty. TTFN.
TTFN? Ta-ta for now.